Get out of my house. Get out right now before I call the police. Victoria Sterling's voice cut through the nursery like a knife. Her diamond rings caught the light as she pointed one manicured finger at the black woman holding her grandson. But Maya Johnson didn't move. She couldn't, because the dying baby in her arms had finally stopped crying. For the first time in 3 weeks, little Ethan was eating. Really eating. And Maya knew that if she stopped now, if she let go, this baby would die. Did you hear me? Victoria stepped closer. I said get out. You contaminated my grandson. You put your filthy body against my family's heir. Maya looked up at the old woman with tears streaming down her face. He was starving, ma'am. He was dying, and I could help him. You're the maid. You clean toilets. You don't touch my grandson. But here's what Victoria didn't know. Here's what nobody knew. 50 years ago, Victoria had done the exact same thing. She had a secret so dark, so buried, that exposing it would destroy everything she had built, and Maya was about to drag it into the light. Before we continue, I need to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you want to see how this ends, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very last word. Trust me, you're going to need tissues for this one. Now let me take you back to where it all began. The crying started at 4 in the morning. Maya Johnson heard it from the bus stop 3 blocks away. That thin, weak wail that seemed to hang in the cold Connecticut air like a ghost. She had been hearing it for weeks now, every single morning when she arrived at the Sterling mansion. And every single morning it broke her heart a little more. Maya pulled her worn coat tighter and walked faster. Her feet ached in her old work shoes, the ones with the hole in the left sole that she covered with cardboard. The Greenwich neighborhood was still dark at this hour, all those massive houses sleeping behind their iron gates and perfect hedges. Houses that cost more than Maya would make in 10 lifetimes. But the Sterling mansion was awake. Every light was on. And that baby was still crying. Maya's hands trembled as she walked. Not from the cold, from the memories that sound brought back. 6 weeks ago, her own baby made that same cry. That desperate, hungry wail that said something was wrong. Marcus had been fussy all day, refusing to eat, his tiny body hot with fever. Maya had called the doctor 3 times. 3 times they told her it was probably nothing. Babies get fussy. Give him time. She gave him time. And by morning, he was gone. Maya wiped her eyes and kept walking. She couldn't think about Marcus right now. She had bills to pay. Rent was due in 5 days. The electricity company had already sent 2 warnings. If she lost this job, she lost everything. So she pushed down the pain. She buried it deep, and she kept walking toward that crying baby. Maya let herself in through the service entrance the way she always did. She hung up her coat in the small closet by the kitchen, put on her work apron, and tried to ignore the sound coming from upstairs. It wasn't her business. That's what she told herself every day. She was just the maid. She cleaned. She stayed invisible. She collected her paycheck and went home to her empty apartment in the Bronx. But today, something was different. The crying stopped. Maya froze with her hand on the mop handle. In 3 months of working here, the crying had never stopped. Not completely. There was always that weak, desperate sound floating through the house like a wound that wouldn't heal. Now there was only silence. Maya's blood turned cold. She knew what silence meant. She had learned it the hard way. She dropped the mop and ran toward the stairs. She knew she shouldn't. She knew this wasn't her place. But her body moved before her mind could stop it. She took the stairs 2 at a time. Her sensible work shoes slapped against the marble. She turned the corner toward the nursery and stopped dead. The door was open. Caroline Sterling was on the floor. Her blonde hair was matted and greasy, her silk robe stained with formula and tears. She was holding baby Ethan against her chest, rocking back and forth, making a sound that wasn't quite human. "Please," Caroline whispered. "Please, please, please, don't leave me. Please don't leave me." Maya stepped into the doorway. "Mrs. Sterling." Caroline's head snapped up. Her eyes were red and swollen, rimmed with dark circles so deep they looked like bruises. She looked at Maya like she didn't recognize her. "He won't wake up," Caroline said. Her voice was flat, dead. "I've been trying for an hour. He won't wake up." Maya crossed the room in 3 steps and knelt beside Caroline. "Give him to me. Let me see." "He's so light," Caroline said, not letting go. "He used to be heavier. When we brought him home from the hospital, he was 7 pounds. Now he's barely 5. The doctors don't know why. They don't know anything. Mrs. Sterling, please, let me see him." Caroline finally loosened her grip. Maya took the baby carefully, supporting his head the way she had supported Marcus's head 100 times, 1,000 times before he died. Ethan's skin was gray. His cheeks were sunken. His tiny chest barely moved. But he was breathing. Barely. But breathing. Maya felt something crack open inside her chest. This baby looked exactly like Marcus had looked on that last morning. That same gray skin. Those same sunken cheeks. That same desperate struggle to hold on to life. "He's alive?" Maya said. "He's still alive. We need to call someone. We need to call an ambulance." "No." Mom, Caroline grabbed Maya's arm with surprising strength. "No more hospitals, no more doctors. They poke him and prod him and run their tests, and then they tell me they don't know what's wrong. They tell me to try a different formula. They tell me to try a different bottle. They tell me to try harder, like I'm not already trying as hard as I can." Caroline's voice cracked and burst and broke. "I haven't slept in 3 weeks. I haven't eaten. I haven't showered. All I do is try to feed my baby, and all he does is starve." Maya looked down at Ethan, at his paper-thin skin, at his tiny fingers curled into fists, at the blue veins showing through his skull. She remembered holding Marcus like this, remembered praying to God, to anyone who would listen, for some way to save him, remembered the helplessness, the desperation, the feeling that she would trade her own life for just one more day with her son. "Where's Mr. Sterling?" Maya asked. Caroline laughed, but there was no humor in it. "David?" "He left for work at 6, said he couldn't stand to hear the crying anymore, said he needed to think." "He left you alone with a dying baby?" "He's been leaving me alone since the day we brought Ethan home. He doesn't know what to do, so he does nothing. He goes to his office and makes phone calls and pretends everything is fine." Maya felt a flash of anger. Her own husband had left her 3 years ago when things got hard. Men like that were all the same. They wanted wives and children when it was easy. They disappeared when it got hard. "I'm sorry," Maya said quietly. "That's not right." Caroline looked up at her with surprise. In 3 months, no one had ever said that to her. Not the doctors, not her friends, not her family. Everyone just told her to be grateful for what she had. A beautiful house, a successful husband, a perfect life. But no one saw this. No one saw her alone on the floor at 4 a.m, holding her dying baby, praying for someone to help. "Why do you care?" Caroline asked. "I'm just your employer. You don't have to pretend." Maya looked at this woman, at her stained robe and tangled hair, at the dark circles under her eyes and the trembling of her hands. She didn't see a rich woman anymore. She saw a mother who was losing her child. "I care because I know what you're going through. I know it better than anyone." "How could you possibly know?" Maya's throat tightened. The words wanted to stay buried. But something about this moment, about this broken woman and her dying baby, made them come out. "My son died 6 weeks ago. His name was Marcus. He was 2 months old." Caroline's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God. One morning he just didn't wake up. They called it sudden infant death syndrome. Said there was nothing anyone could have done." "Maya, I had no idea. Why didn't you tell anyone?" "What was there to tell? Nobody wants to hear about a dead baby, especially not rich people. You hired me to clean your house, not to share my problems." Caroline was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and touched Maya's hand. It was the first time a member of the Sterling family had ever touched her. "I'm so sorry," Caroline whispered. "I'm so sorry." They sat there together, 2 mothers from completely different worlds, connected by grief and desperation. The only sound was Ethan's weak, struggling breaths. Then Caroline asked a question that changed everything. "Your body, does it still... after Marcus, are you still..." She couldn't finish the sentence, but Maya understood immediately. "Yes, I'm still producing milk. The doctors say it can take weeks to stop, sometimes months." "Did they give you medication to dry up?" "They tried, but I couldn't take it." "Why not?" Maya looked down at Ethan, then back at Caroline. This was the secret she hadn't told anyone, the thing that made her feel crazy, broken, wrong. "Because it's the last piece of him I have left. Every morning when I wake up and my body is still making milk, it's like Marcus is still here somehow, like he's still waiting for me. If I take that medicine, if I let it dry up, then he's really gone. Forever." Tears streamed down Maya's face. She hadn't cried like this since the funeral. She had kept everything locked inside, afraid that if she started crying, she would never stop. Caroline squeezed her hand tighter. "That's not crazy. That's love. That's a mother's love." "It doesn't feel like love. It feels like torture. Every day my body makes food for a baby who isn't there. Every day I pump and throw it away because there's no one to feed. Every day I wonder why I'm still here when he's not. Caroline looked at Maya for a long moment. Then she looked at Ethan gray and struggling in Maya's arms. And something shifted in her eyes. What if you didn't have to throw it away anymore? Maya's heart stopped. What? What if you could use it to save another baby? What if you could use it to save my baby? Maya stared at Caroline. She understood immediately what she was asking. Mrs. Sterling, that's not... I can't... We can't. Why not? You have what Ethan needs. The doctors have tried everything else. Every formula, every supplement, every medical intervention known to science. Nothing works. But there are rules about these things. There are boundaries. I'm the maid. You're my employer. If anyone found out... I don't care about rules, Caroline said, and her voice suddenly had steel in it. I don't care about boundaries. I don't care about what anyone thinks. My son is dying. He's dying right in front of me, and every doctor in the country has given up. But you haven't given up. Your body hasn't given up. And maybe, just maybe, that's for a reason. Maya looked at Ethan again, at his gray skin and sunken cheeks, at his tiny chest fighting to rise and fall. She thought about Marcus, about the night before he died, when she had held him close and promised him she would always protect him. She had broken that promise. She had failed him. But maybe she didn't have to fail again. If anyone finds out, Maya said slowly, I'll lose my job. I'll lose everything. Your husband would fire me immediately. No one will find out. This stays between us, just you and me. And if it doesn't work, if he still won't eat, then we never speak of it again. But at least we tried. At least we did something instead of just watching him die. Maya looked at Caroline, at the desperation in her eyes, at the hope fighting against despair. She thought about her empty apartment, about the bills piling up, about the medication she couldn't afford and the therapy she desperately needed. She thought about the empty crib still sitting in her bedroom because she couldn't bear to take it down. And she thought about Marcus, about his tiny face and his perfect fingers and the way he used to look at her like she was his whole world. Lock the door, Maya said. Caroline's eyes went wide. Then she jumped up and ran to the nursery door. The lock clicked into place. She turned back to Maya with tears streaming down her face. Thank you. Whatever happens, thank you. Maya sat down in the rocking chair. The expensive Italian leather felt strange against her worn uniform. She adjusted Ethan in her arms, supporting his head, cradling him close. Her hands were shaking. Her whole body was shaking. She was about to do something that could destroy her life. Something that crossed every line she had ever been taught to respect. But when she looked down at Ethan's face, she didn't see a rich woman's baby. She didn't see her employer's son. She saw Marcus. Maya closed her eyes and whispered a prayer. Then she opened her uniform top and brought Ethan close. For a moment, nothing happened. The baby lay there, weak and limp, barely conscious. His head lolled against her chest. His eyes were closed. Maya felt her heart sinking. It wasn't going to work. She was a fool for thinking she could save this baby when she couldn't even save her own. But then Ethan's nose twitched. His head turned slightly like he was searching for something. His tiny mouth opened and closed, and suddenly, desperately, he latched on. Maya gasped. The sensation was painful after weeks of pumping and dumping. Her body had gotten used to the cold plastic of the machine, not the warm mouth of a hungry baby. But underneath the pain was something else. Something she thought she would never feel again. Purpose. Ethan drank. Really drank. Not the weak, painful sucking he did with bottles. This was strong and hungry and desperate and alive. His tiny hands curled into fists against Maya's chest. His legs kicked with energy she had never seen before. Color started coming back to his cheeks. Caroline fell to her knees beside the rocking chair. Her hands covered her mouth. Tears poured down her face. He's eating, she whispered. Oh my God, Maya, he's actually eating. Maya couldn't speak. She was crying too hard. Tears ran down her face and dripped onto Ethan's blanket. She didn't know if she was crying for him or for Marcus or for herself. Maybe all three. For 10 minutes, the only sound in the nursery was the soft rhythm of a baby finally getting what he needed. When Ethan finally pulled away, his belly full, his eyes opened for the first time. He looked up at Maya with clear, bright eyes. And then he did something he had never done before. He smiled. Caroline let out a sob. He's never smiled. Not once since he was born. He's never been happy enough to smile. Maya looked down at Ethan's face. At his pink cheeks and satisfied expression, he looked like a completely different baby. He looked like he was going to live. We did it, Caroline whispered. We actually did it. Maya carefully handed Ethan back to his mother. The baby stirred but didn't cry. He made a small content sound, the first happy sound anyone had heard from him in weeks. He needs to eat again in a few hours, Maya said, adjusting her uniform. And then again after that. This isn't a one-time thing. If we stop now, he'll go back to starving. Caroline nodded frantically. I'll make it work. Whatever you need, whatever schedule works for you, I'll make it happen. Your husband can't know. If Mr. Sterling finds out, David won't find out. He's barely here anyway. He leaves for work before dawn and comes home after dinner. I could have an affair in the middle of the living room and he wouldn't notice. Maya stood up. Her legs felt weak. Her whole body felt different somehow. Like something that had been broken inside her was starting to heal. I should go back downstairs before someone wonders where I am. Maya, Caroline caught her hand. Why did you say yes after everything I put you through? The long hours, the low pay, never even learning your name until today. Why did you decide to help me? Maya thought about the question. She had asked herself the same thing. Because I prayed every day for a chance to save Marcus. I begged God to give me a way to bring him back. He didn't answer that prayer. But maybe he answered it differently. Maybe he sent me here to this house, to this baby, because this is the chance I was praying for. She walked to the door and unlocked it. I'll be back in 4 hours. Have the nursery ready. And if you're still with me, don't go anywhere, because what happens next will shock you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single second of this story. Now let's keep going. The next 3 days changed everything. Maya arrived at the mansion every morning at 5. She cleaned the kitchen and the living room like normal. But 3 times a day, whenever David Sterling was at work and the rest of the staff were busy elsewhere, Caroline would send her a text. Just one word. Ready. Maya would put down whatever she was doing. She would walk upstairs to the nursery. Caroline would lock the door. And for 20 precious minutes, Maya would feed Ethan while Caroline stood guard. It was working. Everyone could see it. By the second day, Ethan had gained 4 ounces. His skin turned from gray to pink. His cries became strong and healthy. By the 3rd day, he was sleeping through the night. 4 hours straight. Caroline called Maya at midnight, crying with joy. He's sleeping. He's actually sleeping. I can't remember the last time I slept for more than 30 minutes at a time. Then go to sleep yourself, Maya said. You need rest too. I can't stop looking at him. I keep checking to make sure he's still breathing. I'm afraid if I close my eyes, I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. Maya understood that fear. She had felt it with Marcus. Those first weeks when everything seemed perfect, when she couldn't believe how lucky she was. And then one morning she woke up and her luck ran out. He's going to be okay, Maya said. I promise you he's going to be okay. David Sterling noticed the change immediately. On the 4th morning, he was actually home for breakfast. Maya was polishing the dining room table when she heard him talking to Caroline in the kitchen. Whatever new formula you're using, it's working miracles. Ethan looks amazing, completely transformed. Yes, Caroline said carefully. The new formula is really working. Maya kept her head down and kept polishing, but she felt Caroline's eyes on her through the doorway. A silent thank you. I called Dr. Patterson yesterday, David continued. Told him we finally found something that works. He wants to see Ethan next week for a checkup. Make sure everything is progressing normally. Maya's hand froze on the table. A doctor's checkup. That could be a problem. That's great, Caroline said, but Maya could hear the tension in her voice. I'll make sure he's ready. When David left for work, Caroline found Maya in the hallway. What are we going to do? Caroline whispered. Dr. Patterson is going to examine Ethan. He's going to ask questions about what changed. What if he figures it out? Then we tell him the truth. The truth, Maya, we can't tell anyone the truth. Not the whole truth, just part of it. Tell him you switched to donor milk. Tell him you found a breast milk bank that had what Ethan needed. Caroline's eyes widened. That's brilliant. Donor milk is completely legal. Doctors recommend it all the time. Exactly. No one needs to know where the milk is really coming from. Caroline grabbed Maya's hands. What would I do without you? Let's hope you never have to find out. But secrets in big houses have a way of getting out, especially when someone is always watching. Maya noticed it on the 5th day. The housekeeper, an older woman named Patricia, kept giving her strange looks, watching her when she went upstairs, timing how long she was gone. Maya tried to ignore it. Patricia had worked for the Sterling family for 15 years. She was loyal to them, not to Maya. If she suspected something, she would go straight to management. Or worse, straight to Victoria Sterling. Maya had heard stories about David's mother. All the staff had. Victoria was the matriarch of the Sterling Empire. She had built Sterling Pharmaceuticals from a small laboratory into a billion-dollar company. She had buried 2 husbands and outlived most of her enemies. She ruled her family with an iron fist wrapped in Chanel, and nothing happened in this family without Victoria's knowledge and approval. On the 6th day, Maya's worst fears came true. She was in the nursery feeding Ethan when she heard a car pulling up the driveway. Through the window, she saw a black Bentley rolling toward the house. Her blood turned to ice. "Caroline?" Maya whispered. "Someone's here." Caroline jumped up and looked out the window. Her face went white. "Oh God, it's Victoria. She wasn't supposed to come until next month." "What do we do?" "Finish feeding him. Quickly. I'll go downstairs and stall her." Caroline ran out of the nursery. Maya heard her footsteps on the stairs, heard the front door opening, heard voices in the foyer. "Mother Sterling? What a surprise. We weren't expecting you." "I heard Ethan was sick. Now I hear he's miraculously better. I wanted to see for myself." Maya's hands were trembling so badly she could barely hold Ethan. The baby sensed her fear. He started to fuss. "Shh, it's okay," Maya whispered. "Please, baby, just a little more. Just a few more minutes." But Ethan was done. He pulled away and started to cry. Maya quickly adjusted her uniform. She stood up and placed Ethan in his crib. She grabbed a cloth and pretended to be dusting the furniture. The door opened. Victoria Sterling stood in the doorway. She was smaller than Maya expected, barely 5 feet tall, but her presence filled the room like a storm cloud. Her silver hair was perfectly styled. Her clothes probably cost more than Maya's yearly salary. Her eyes were sharp and cold and missed nothing. "You're the maid?" Victoria asked. "Yes, ma'am." "What are you doing in the nursery?" "Cleaning, ma'am. Mrs. Sterling asked me to dust while the baby was sleeping." Victoria looked at Ethan, who was still fussing in his crib. "He doesn't look like he's sleeping." "He just woke up, ma'am. I was about to call Mrs. Sterling." Victoria walked past Maya without another word. She leaned over the crib and looked at Ethan with the same cold, calculating eyes. "He does look better," Victoria said. "Much better. Pink cheeks, bright eyes. A completely different baby from the one I saw in photographs last week." She turned to Maya. Her gaze was like being examined under a microscope. "What changed?" "I don't know, ma'am. I just cleaned the house." "Don't play stupid with me. You've been working here for 3 months. You must have seen something, heard something." Maya kept her face blank. "Mrs. Sterling found a new formula that works. That's all I know." Victoria stared at her for a long moment. Maya felt like she was being x-rayed, like this woman could see straight through her lies to the truth underneath. Then Victoria smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We'll see," she said. "I'll be staying for a few days. I want to observe my grandson's recovery myself." She walked out of the nursery without another word. Her heels clicked on the marble like gunshots. Maya stood there, trembling. Her heart pounding so hard she thought it might explode. Victoria knew something. Maya was sure of it. The old woman might not have proof yet, but she was suspicious. And Victoria Sterling was not the kind of woman who let her suspicions go unanswered. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in her tiny apartment staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in her head. What if Victoria found out? What if she told David? What if Maya lost her job, lost her apartment, lost everything she had left? At 2 a.m, her phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. She's asking questions. About you. About how much time you spend upstairs. I don't know how much longer I can cover. Maya typed back. "What should I do?" Caroline's response came immediately. "Come early tomorrow. We need to talk." Maya was at the mansion by 4:30 the next morning. Caroline was waiting for her at the service entrance, still in her nightgown. "She knows something," Caroline said. "I can feel it. She keeps looking at me like she's waiting for me to confess." "Has she said anything directly?" "No, but she asked the housekeeper about you. Patricia told her you've been spending a lot of time in the nursery." Maya's stomach dropped. Patricia. She knew that woman was watching. "What did you tell Victoria?" "I said you were helping with Ethan, holding him while I took breaks. Nothing inappropriate." "Did she believe you?" Caroline shook her head. "Victoria never believes anything anyone tells her. She only believes what she sees with her own eyes." They stood there in the dark kitchen, 2 women bound together by a secret that could destroy them both. "What do we do now?" Maya asked. "We have to be more careful. No more feeding during the day when she might see. We'll only do it at night after she's asleep." "What if Ethan gets hungry during the day?" "I'll give him bottles. Try to stretch out the time between feedings. It's only for a few days until Victoria leaves." Maya nodded. She didn't like it, but she didn't see another option. They made it through that day, and the next. Victoria watched them both like a hawk, but she didn't catch anything. On the third night, Maya was feeding Ethan in the nursery. It was past midnight. Caroline had checked twice to make sure Victoria was asleep. Ethan was almost finished when they heard footsteps in the hallway. Caroline's face went white. She's supposed to be asleep. Hide me, somewhere, anywhere. But it was too late. The footsteps had already stopped outside the door. A key turned in the lock. The door swung open. Victoria Sterling stood there in her silk robe, her face a mask of cold fury. "I knew it," Victoria said. "I knew something was wrong." Caroline stepped between them. "Mother Sterling, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" That you let the help nurse my grandson, that you let this woman put her body against my family's heir." "He was dying," Caroline said. "The doctors couldn't help. Maya saved his life." "Saved him?" Victoria laughed, but there was no humor in it. "She contaminated him. She violated him. Do you have any idea what diseases she could be carrying, what drugs she could be on, what kind of person she really is?" Maya found her voice. "I'm healthy, ma'am. I had full blood work done after my son died. I'm completely clean." Victoria turned her full attention to Maya. The hatred in her eyes was absolute. "Your son. You have a son." "I had a son, Marcus. He died 6 weeks ago, SIDS. So you're grieving, unstable, desperate, and you inserted yourself into my family in the most intimate way possible." "I didn't insert myself. Mrs. Sterling asked me to help. She begged me." Victoria's eyes snapped to Caroline. "Is this true? You begged the maid to do this?" Caroline lifted her chin. "Yes, I did, because my son was dying and she was the only one who could help." The room fell silent. Maya could hear her own heartbeat thundering in her ears. Then Victoria said the words that changed everything. "David will hear about this, tonight, and by morning this woman will be out of this house and out of our lives forever." She turned to Maya with ice in her voice. "Pack your things. You're done here." Maya looked at Caroline, at Ethan still in her arms, finally healthy and happy and alive. She looked at Victoria, at the hatred and disgust on that perfectly made-up face, and something inside Maya snapped. "No," Maya said. Victoria blinked. "Excuse me." "I said no, I'm not leaving, not until you hear the truth." Victoria laughed. "The truth? What truth could you possibly have to tell me?" "The truth about what I did for your grandson, and the truth about what someone did for your son 50 years ago." Victoria's face went pale. For the first time since she walked into the room, she looked uncertain. "What are you talking about?" Maya didn't know what she was talking about. The words had come out of nowhere, driven by anger and desperation, and something she couldn't explain. But when she saw the fear flicker across Victoria's face, she knew she had struck a nerve. "I think you know exactly what I'm talking about," Maya said. "And I think you've been keeping that secret for a very long time." Victoria stared at Maya. Her hands were trembling. "You don't know anything," Victoria said, but her voice was shaking too. "Maybe not yet," Maya said, "but I'm going to find out." Victoria took a step back, then another. Her face was gray now, all the blood drained away. "This isn't over," Victoria said. "You think you can threaten me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." She turned and walked out of the nursery, but she didn't walk with the same confidence she had before. Her steps were unsteady, her shoulders were hunched. Caroline grabbed Maya's arm. "What just happened? What were you talking about?" Maya shook her head. "I don't know. I was just trying to scare her. But did you see her face? Something I said hit a nerve." "You think she's hiding something?" "I don't just think it. I know it. And whatever it is, it's big enough to make Victoria Sterling afraid." Caroline looked at the door where Victoria had disappeared. "What do we do now?" Maya looked down at Ethan, still cradled in her arms, still healthy, still alive, because of her. "We find out what she's hiding," Maya said, "and we use it to protect this baby." She didn't know it then, but those words would lead her down a path she never expected, a path that would expose secrets buried for 50 years, and destroy the Sterling family forever. The next morning came too fast. Maya had barely slept 3 hours before her alarm went off at 4. Her body ached, her mind raced, but she got up anyway because Ethan needed her, and she wasn't going to let him down. She arrived at the Sterling mansion at 5:15. The house was dark except for one light in the upstairs hallway. Victoria's room. The old woman was awake, watching, waiting. Caroline met Maya at the service entrance. Her face was pale and drawn. "She's been up all night," Caroline whispered. "I heard her making phone calls at 2 in the morning. I don't know who she was talking to, but it didn't sound good." "What do you think she's planning?" "I don't know, but we need to find out what you said that scared her so much. You mentioned something about 50 years ago, about a secret." Maya shook her head. "I was bluffing. I don't actually know anything." "But she doesn't know that. Did you see her face?" "She looked terrified. Whatever secret she's hiding, it's real." Kitty. They moved into the kitchen. Caroline checked the hallway twice before speaking again. "Victoria keeps all her personal papers in a locked office on the 3rd floor. I've never been inside, but David has a key." "Can you get it?" "Maybe, but if she catches us searching her things, it's over. She'll destroy us." Maya thought about Ethan upstairs, about his pink cheeks and bright eyes, about how close he had been to death just 1 week ago. "She's already trying to destroy us," Maya said. "At least if we find something, we have a weapon to fight back with." Caroline was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "David keeps his keys in the nightstand. He sleeps like the dead. I can get them tonight after Victoria goes to bed." "And if she doesn't go to bed, then we improvise." That day was the longest of Maya's life. She cleaned the same rooms she always cleaned. She polished the same silver. She mopped the same floors. But every minute felt like an hour. Victoria watched her constantly. The old woman sat in the living room with a book she never read, her eyes following Maya everywhere she went. At noon, Victoria finally spoke. "You know I made some calls last night." Maya kept dusting. "Is that so, ma'am?" "I called a friend at Child Protective Services, told her about a concerning situation I'd observed, a maid who was getting too close to a baby that wasn't hers." Maya's hand froze on the picture frame she was cleaning. "She was very interested," Victoria continued. "Said it sounded like a case worth investigating. Said she might send someone over in the next few days." Maya turned to face Victoria. The old woman was smiling, but her eyes were cold. "You would really do that? Report me to CPS for saving your grandson's life?" "I'm not reporting you for saving anyone. I'm reporting you for inappropriate contact with a minor. There's a difference." "Ethan was dying. Your doctors couldn't help him. I did what any mother would do." "But you're not his mother, are you? You're the help, and the help should know their place." Maya felt anger rising in her chest. She had spent her whole life being told to know her place, being told to stay invisible, being told that people like her didn't matter. But this time she wasn't going to back down. "I know exactly what my place is," Maya said quietly. "My place is with that baby upstairs. The baby I saved. The baby who would be dead right now if I had known my place like you wanted." Victoria's smile disappeared. "You think you're brave. You think standing up to me makes you special. I've crushed people far more powerful than you. Lawyers, politicians, business rivals, they all thought they could stand up to Victoria Sterling. They all learned they were wrong." "Maybe they didn't have anything to fight with. Maybe I do." Victoria leaned forward. "What exactly do you think you have?" Maya met her gaze without flinching. "I think you know exactly what I have. And I think that's why you've been up all night making phone calls. Because you're scared." The silence stretched between them. Maya could hear her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. Then Victoria laughed. It was a cold, brittle sound. "You're bluffing. You don't know anything." "Are you willing to bet everything on that?" Victoria's face hardened. She stood up from her chair and walked toward Maya until they were just inches apart. "Let me make something very clear," Victoria said softly. "I have spent 50 years building this family's reputation. I have sacrificed more than you could ever imagine to protect the Sterling name, and I will not let some maid from the Bronx destroy everything I've built." "Then we understand each other," Maya said, "because I've spent 28 years being told I'm nothing, being told I don't matter, being told that my place is cleaning up after people like you, and I will not let you take away the one good thing I've done with my life." Victoria stared at Maya for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. It might have been respect. It might have been fear. Then she turned and walked out of the room without another word. At 6 o'clock that evening, David Sterling came home early. Maya was in the kitchen when she heard the front door open. She heard David's voice in the foyer, then Victoria's. They were speaking in low, urgent tones. Caroline came running into the kitchen, her face white. "David knows. Victoria told him everything." Maya's heart stopped. "Everything. About you feeding Ethan. About what you said to her last night. About all of it." Before Maya could respond, David appeared in the kitchen doorway. His face was a mask of controlled fury. "You, my office, now!" Maya followed him on shaking legs. She could feel Victoria watching from the living room, a satisfied smile on her face. David's office was on the first floor, a dark room filled with leather furniture and family portraits. He closed the door behind them and turned to face her. "Is it true? Did you nurse my son?" "Yes, sir." "Without my knowledge or consent?" "Your wife asked me to. She begged me. Ethan was dying and I was the only one who could help." David ran his hands through his hair. He looked exhausted, broken. "Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you have any idea what this could do to my family?" "I saved your son's life. That's what I did." "You crossed a line. You inserted yourself into my family in the most intimate way possible. My mother is talking about calling CPS. She's talking about lawyers. She's talking about destroying you." Maya felt her courage wavering, but she thought about Ethan, about his smile, about the life she had given him. "Then let her try. But before she does, maybe you should ask her about her own secrets." David frowned. "What secrets?" "I don't know yet, but there's something she's hiding, something from 50 years ago, something that terrifies her." "You're talking about my mother, the woman who built everything this family has." "I'm talking about a woman who's willing to let her grandson die rather than admit that the help saved his life. What kind of grandmother does that?" David was quiet, his jaw clenched and unclenched. "You need to leave," he said finally. "Tonight, I'll give you 3 months' pay and a reference letter, but you can never come back here." "And Ethan? What happens to him when I'm gone?" "We'll figure something out. We always do." "No, you don't. You didn't figure anything out for 3 weeks while he was starving to death. Your doctors couldn't figure it out. Your money couldn't figure it out. I figured it out. Me, the maid." David's face flushed with anger. "Get out of my house." "Not until you answer one question." "What? If I leave and Ethan starts starving again and he dies, will you be able to live with yourself?" The question hung in the air between them. David opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. Maya walked to the door and opened it. "Think about it, Mr. Sterling. Think about what your mother is really protecting, because I don't think it's Ethan. I think it's herself." She walked out of the office. Victoria was standing in the hallway, waiting. "I assume my son fired you," Victoria said. "He tried." "Tried? What does that mean?" Maya kept walking toward the stairs. "It means I'm not done here yet. If you set one foot in that nursery, I'll call the police myself." Maya stopped. She turned to face Victoria. "Go ahead. Call them. Tell them how the maid saved your grandson's life when your money and your doctors couldn't. Tell them how you want to punish her for it. I'm sure that story will look great in the newspapers." Victoria's face went red. "You wouldn't dare." "I have nothing left to lose, Mrs. Sterling. My baby is dead. My apartment is about to be taken away. The only thing keeping me going is that little boy upstairs, and I will not let you hurt him just to protect your pride." Maya turned and walked up the stairs. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was pounding. She had never spoken to anyone like that in her life, but she meant every word. That night at 11:45, Caroline crept into Maya's room. "I got the key," Caroline whispered. "David passed out an hour ago. Victoria went to bed at 10. "Are you sure about this?" "No, but I'm not sure about anything anymore. All I know is that woman threatened to take my baby away, and I want to know why she's so scared of what you might find." They moved through the dark house like ghosts. The stairs creaked under their feet. Maya held her breath with every step. Victoria's office was on the 3rd floor at the end of a long hallway. Caroline fumbled with the key in the darkness. The lock clicked. The door swung open. The office smelled like old paper and expensive perfume. Maya pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. "Where do we start?" Caroline asked. "Anywhere, everywhere. We're looking for something from 50 years ago. Letters, documents, photographs, anything." They searched for 20 minutes. Maya went through the desk drawers, while Caroline checked the filing cabinets. They found financial records, legal documents, business contracts. Nothing personal. Then Maya opened the bottom drawer of a small antique cabinet in the corner. "Caroline, come here." The drawer was full of letters. Old letters yellowed with age tied together with faded ribbon. Maya picked up the first bundle and shined her light on the envelope. The postmark was from 1975, 50 years ago. The return address said Rosa Thompson, Atlanta, Georgia. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the first letter. "Dear Mrs. Sterling," it began. "I am writing to confirm our arrangement as we discussed. I understand that I am to nurse your son David for as long as needed, and that I will receive payment of $500 per month for my services. I also understand that this arrangement is to remain completely confidential. I will not speak of it to anyone now or ever." Maya looked at Caroline. Caroline's face was white. "Oh my God," Caroline whispered. "She did the same thing. Victoria had a wet nurse for David." Maya kept reading. The letters spanned 2 years. They detailed payment schedules, secret meetings. Rosa Thompson had nursed David Sterling for 18 months because Victoria's milk never came in. And Victoria had kept it secret for 50 years. The last letter was different from the others. It was dated 1977 and the tone was desperate. "Mrs. Sterling, please. I am begging you to reconsider. I have kept your secret for 2 years. I have never told anyone about our arrangement. But my husband is sick and I cannot afford his medical bills. You promised you would help me if I ever needed anything. I am asking for that help now. Please, Mrs. Sterling. You have so much and I have so little. All I am asking for is what you promised." There was a note clipped to this letter in Victoria's handwriting. Paid her $5,000 to disappear. Signed NDA. Problem solved. Maya felt sick. Rosa Thompson had helped Victoria in her darkest moment, and Victoria had thrown her away like garbage. "We have her, Tom," Maya said. "We have everything we need." "What do we do with it?" Before Maya could answer, the office light clicked on. Victoria was standing in the doorway in her nightgown. Her silver hair was disheveled. Her face was a mask of fury. "You broke into my office. You went through my private papers." "We found the truth," Maya said. "Rosa Thompson, 1975. You did the exact same thing I did. The only difference is you paid her to keep quiet." Victoria's face went gray. "That was different." How was it different?" "I was sick. I had no choice. David would have died." "And Ethan would have died too. But when I saved him, you called me a contamination. You called me filthy. You called me disgusting." Victoria took a step toward them. Her hands were shaking. "You don't understand. Back then, things were different. If people knew I had a black woman nursing my baby, it would have destroyed our reputation. It would have ruined everything I was building." "So you hid it. You paid Rosa to disappear. You pretended it never happened." "I did what I had to do to protect my family." "No, you did what you had to do to protect yourself, your pride, your precious reputation." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Maya had never expected to see Victoria Sterling cry. "You have no idea what I sacrificed, what I gave up. I spent 50 years building this family, making sure David never knew the truth about how he survived, making sure no one ever questioned the Sterling legacy. And now you're willing to destroy another woman for doing the same thing that saved your son's life." Victoria was silent. The tears ran down her face, carving tracks through her perfect makeup. "Give me those letters," Victoria said finally. "Give them to me and walk away. I'll give you money. More money than you've ever seen. You can start over. Forget any of this ever happened." Maya looked at the letters in her hand, at the evidence that could bring down the Sterling Empire. "I don't want your money." "Then what do you want?" "I want you to leave me alone. I want to keep feeding Ethan until he's strong enough to eat on his own. And I want you to admit that what I did wasn't wrong, that saving a baby's life is never wrong no matter who does it." Victoria stared at Maya for a long moment. "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because if I admit you were right, then I have to admit that I was wrong. About Rosa. About everything. And I can't do that. I can't undo 50 years of lies." Maya felt something she never expected to feel. Pity. "Then I'm sorry for you, Mrs. Sterling, because you're going to spend the rest of your life protecting a lie. And one day when you're gone, the truth will come out anyway. It always does." Maya walked past Victoria and out of the office. Caroline followed, still clutching some of the letters. Victoria didn't try to stop them. But as Maya reached the stairs, she heard Victoria's voice behind her. "This isn't over. You think those letters protect you? I have lawyers. I have connections. I have power you can't imagine. By tomorrow morning, you'll wish you never set foot in this house." Maya didn't turn around. "Maybe, but tonight I'm going to feed Ethan one more time, and you can't stop me." She walked up the stairs to the nursery. Behind her, she heard Victoria making a phone call. Her voice was cold and controlled. "Yes, it's Victoria Sterling. I need to speak with someone about filing an emergency complaint. Child endangerment. Yes, I'll hold." Maya's blood ran cold. Victoria was really doing it. She was calling CDs, but Maya didn't stop. She walked into the nursery, picked up Ethan, and held him close. "It's okay, baby," she whispered. "Whatever happens, I'm not going to let anyone hurt you." Ethan looked up at her with his bright eyes and smiled, and Maya knew that no matter what came next, she had done the right thing. The call from CPS came at 8 the next morning. Maya was in the kitchen when Caroline burst in, her phone clutched in her trembling hand. "They're sending an investigator, today. They received a complaint about inappropriate contact between a household employee and a minor." Victoria. She actually did it. She actually called them. Maya felt the floor tilting beneath her feet. This was really happening. The woman who had done the exact same thing 50 years ago was now trying to destroy her for it. What do? We tell them the truth. We show them the letters. We prove that Victoria is a hypocrite. But the letters are about David, about Victoria's secret. If we use them, we destroy the whole family. Maya looked at Caroline. "What do you want me to do? Let them take Ethan. Let Victoria win." Caroline's eyes filled with tears. "No, but David is my husband. He doesn't know any of this. If we expose Victoria, we expose him too. Our whole life falls apart." "Your life is already falling apart. Victoria made sure of that the moment she walked into this house." The investigator arrived at 2 in the afternoon. Her name was Patricia Williams, a stern-faced woman in a gray suit who looked like she had seen everything and believed nothing. Victoria was waiting in the living room, dressed in her finest clothes, playing the role of concerned grandmother. "Thank you so much for coming," Victoria said. "I've been so worried about my grandson. This woman has been acting inappropriately with him for weeks, and my daughter-in-law has been too blind to see it." Patricia Williams looked at Maya with cold professional eyes. "Ma'am, I need to speak with you privately." Maya followed her to the dining room. Her hands were shaking. "Tell me about your relationship with the child," Patricia said. Maya told her everything, about Ethan's illness, about the doctors who couldn't help, about Caroline's desperation, about her own dead son and the milk her body still produced. "So you breastfed an infant that wasn't yours without the knowledge of the father, based solely on the mother's request?" "Yes, because he was dying, and I could help." "You understand that what you did could be considered inappropriate contact, that there are protocols for these situations." "I understand that a baby was starving to death, and I saved his life. Protocols weren't going to feed him." Patricia wrote something in her notebook. "I'll need to examine the child, and speak with the mother, and review medical records. You'll find that Ethan was dying before I helped him, and you'll find that he's thriving now. I'll find what the evidence shows, nothing more, nothing less." The examination took 2 hours. Patricia checked Ethan's weight, his development, his overall health. She interviewed Caroline. She reviewed the medical records from Dr. Patterson. When she came out of the nursery, her face was unreadable. "The child appears healthy," Patricia said. "In fact, he appears to be thriving. His weight gain over the past 2 weeks is remarkable." Victoria stepped forward. "But the contact, the inappropriate contact." "Mrs. Sterling, there's no evidence of harm to the child. In fact, all evidence suggests that whatever intervention occurred saved his life." "But she crossed a line. She inserted herself into our family." "Gemul, that's a family matter, not a child welfare matter. I can only act if there's evidence of abuse or neglect. I don't see that here." Victoria's face went purple with rage. "This is outrageous. I know people. I know your supervisor. I will not let this stand." Patricia turned to face Victoria directly. "Ma'am, you're welcome to contact anyone you like, but I should warn you that filing false reports with CPS is a serious offense. If I find evidence that this complaint was made in bad faith, there could be consequences." Victoria took a step back. For the first time, she looked uncertain. "Now," Patricia continued, "I'm going to close this case, but I suggest that this family work out its issues privately, and I suggest that everyone involved considers what's actually best for the child." She gathered her papers and walked out the front door. Victoria stood frozen in the living room. Her perfect mask had cracked. "This isn't over," she said quietly. "This will never be over." "Yes, it is," Caroline said. "It's over, Mother Sterling. You lost." Victoria turned to face her daughter-in-law. Her eyes were filled with hatred. "You think you've won. You have no idea what I'm capable of. I built this family from nothing. I protected our name when everyone tried to tear us down. And I will not let some maid and my weak-willed daughter-in-law destroy everything I've built." "What exactly are you going to do?" Caroline asked. "The CPS investigation failed. The letters prove you're a hypocrite. What else do you have?" Victoria smiled. It was the coldest smile Maya had ever seen. "I have David, and by tonight, he'll know everything. Everything about what you did behind his back. Everything about how you betrayed his trust. And when he finds out, he'll have to choose. His mother or his wife." She turned and walked up the stairs without another word. Caroline collapsed into a chair. Her whole body was shaking. "She's right. When David finds out I lied to him, he'll never forgive me." Maya knelt beside her. "Then we tell him first. We tell him everything before Victoria can twist it." "He'll be furious." "Maybe, but he'll be more furious if he hears it from his mother. At least if it comes from you, he knows you're being honest." Caroline looked at Maya with desperate eyes. "Will you stay with me when I tell him? I'll stay as long as you need me." David came home at 6 that evening. He looked exhausted, like he'd been carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Caroline met him at the door. "We need to talk, now, before your mother gets to you." David frowned. "What's going on?" "Everything. Everything is going on, and I need you to hear it from me first." They sat in David's office. Caroline told him everything, about Ethan's feeding, about Victoria's discovery, about the CPS investigation, about the letters they found in Victoria's office. David listened in silence. His face went from confused to shocked to furious. "My mother had a wet nurse," he said when Caroline finished. "A black woman nursed me when I was a baby." "Yes, Rosa Thompson, for 18 months. And she kept it secret for 50 years. She paid Rosa $5,000 to sign an NDA and disappear." David stood up and walked to the window. He stood there for a long moment, staring out at nothing. "My whole life," he said quietly, "I thought I knew who my mother was. I thought I understood why she was so protective of our family's reputation. But this," he turned to face Caroline and Maya, "she did the exact same thing you did, and then she tried to destroy you for it." "Yes," Maya said. "That's exactly what happened." David's face hardened. "Where is she now?" "Upstairs, waiting for you." David walked out of the office. Maya and Caroline followed. Victoria was in the living room, sitting in her favorite chair, looking like a queen, waiting to receive her subjects. "David, darling, I'm glad you're home. We need to discuss what your wife has been doing behind your back." "I already know what she's been doing. I also know what you've been doing. For 50 years. Victoria's face went pale. "I don't know what you mean." "Rosa Thompson, 1975. You had a black woman nurse me because you couldn't do it yourself." Victoria stood up slowly. "That was different." "No, it wasn't. It was exactly the same. The only difference is you paid Rosa to keep quiet, and then you pretended it never happened." "I was protecting our family, protecting you." "You were protecting yourself, your pride, your precious reputation, the same reputation you were willing to destroy my marriage to protect." "David, please, you have to understand. Back then, things were different. People would have talked. They would have judged us. And now you're judging Maya for doing the same thing that saved my life." Victoria was crying now. Real tears, not the controlled kind she used in public. "I did what I thought was right. I did what any mother would do." "Maya did what any mother would do too, but you called her filthy. You called her contaminated. You tried to have her arrested. I was scared. I was scared that the truth would come out, and everything I built would be destroyed." "The truth is coming out anyway. That's what happens with secrets. They always come out eventually." David turned to Maya. His eyes were red. "I owe you an apology for how I treated you, for threatening to fire you, for not seeing what my mother really was." Maya shook her head. "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Sterling. You just need to take care of your son." David nodded. Then he turned back to his mother. "I think you should leave. Tonight." Victoria gasped. "David, you can't be serious. This is my family, my house." "No, Mother. This is my house, my family, and you are no longer welcome here." Victoria looked around the room, at David, at Caroline, at Maya, at everything she had built and controlled for 50 years. Then without a word, she walked out of the room. They heard her footsteps on the stairs. They heard her moving around upstairs. An hour later, a taxi pulled up in front of the house. Victoria came down with one suitcase. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. She walked out the front door and got into the taxi, and just like that, she was gone. Maya stood at the window watching the taxi disappear down the driveway. "Is it really over?" she asked. Caroline came to stand beside her. "I don't know. With Victoria, nothing is ever really over." But as Maya looked up at the nursery window where Ethan was sleeping peacefully, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind them. She didn't know that Victoria was already making plans, already reaching out to lawyers and judges and powerful friends. The battle was won. But the war was just beginning. I need to continue from this point, showing Victoria's retaliation, the escalating conflict, and more drama. I should include time markers, mini-climaxes every 2 to 3 minutes, major twists every 10-12 minutes, and audience retention hooks every 8-10 minutes. Let me write part 3, now making sure it flows naturally from part 2. 3 days passed. 3 quiet, peaceful days, where Maya almost forgot what it felt like to be afraid. She fed Ethan in the mornings and evenings. She watched him grow stronger every day. She started to believe that maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. She should have known better. On the 4th morning, Maya arrived at the Sterling mansion to find 2 police cars in the driveway. Her heart stopped. She ran toward the house, her old work shoes slapping against the cobblestones. Before she reached the door, it flew open. Caroline came running out, her face streaked with tears. "They took him! Maya, they took Ethan!" Maya grabbed Caroline's arm. "What are you talking about? Who took him? How could CPS? They came with a court order. Emergency custody. They said there was new evidence. They said we were unfit parents." Maya felt the world spinning around her. "That's impossible. Patricia Williams closed the case. She said there was no evidence of harm." "Victoria. It has to be Victoria. She did something. She called someone." David appeared in the doorway. His face was gray. His hands were shaking. "The judge who signed the order is a friend of my mother's. They've known each other for 30 years. She probably called him the night she left." Maya's legs gave out. She sank to her knees on the cold driveway. She had done this. She had saved Ethan's life, and now he was gone because of it. "Where did they take him?" Maya asked. "Foster care. Temporary placement until there's a hearing." "When is the hearing?" 2 weeks. They said we have 2 weeks to prove we're fit parents." 2 weeks. 14 days. 336 hours without Ethan. Maya pushed herself to her feet. "We need to find Rosa Thompson." David frowned. "The woman from my mother's letters. She's the only one who can prove Victoria is a hypocrite. If we can get her to testify, if we can show the judge that Victoria did the same thing 50 years ago, maybe we can get Ethan back." Caroline grabbed Maya's hand. "Do you really think that would work?" "I don't know, but it's the only chance we have." David pulled out his phone. "I still have contacts at Sterling Pharmaceuticals, people who owe me favors. I can try to track down Rosa Thompson." "How long will that take?" "A few days, maybe a week." "We don't have a week. Every day Ethan is in foster care, he's not getting what he needs. He could start starving again." David's face twisted with pain. "I know, but I can't make people move faster than they can move." Maya thought about Ethan, about his bright eyes and pink cheeks, about the way he smiled when she held him, about the weak, dying baby he had been just 3 weeks ago. "Then I'll find her myself." Caroline stared at her. "How you don't have resources? You don't have connections." "I have the letters. I know Rosa's name and where she lived 50 years ago, Atlanta, Georgia. That's a start." David shook his head. "Maya, you can't just fly to Atlanta and start knocking on doors. Watch me." That evening, Maya used her last $300 to buy a bus ticket to Atlanta. The trip would take 14 hours. She would arrive in the morning. Caroline tried to give her money for a plane ticket. Maya refused. "You need that money for lawyers, for the custody battle. I can take a bus." "But 14 hours? I've done harder things. I buried my son. Riding a bus is nothing." At 9 o'clock, Maya boarded the Greyhound at the Port Authority station in Manhattan. She found a seat near the back and pressed her forehead against the cold window. The bus pulled away from the station. The city lights blurred past. Maya closed her eyes and prayed that she wasn't too late. The bus arrived in Atlanta at 11 the next morning. Maya hadn't slept more than 2 hours. Her body ached. Her head pounded. But she forced herself to keep moving. She started at the public library. The letters said Rosa Thompson lived on Maple Street in 1975. Maya spent 3 hours searching through old phone directories and property records. Rosa wasn't listed anymore, but there was a Thompson family still living on Maple Street, a woman named Dorothy Thompson. Maya wrote down the address and took a city bus across town. Maple Street was in a quiet neighborhood of small, well-kept houses. Maya walked down the sidewalk checking house numbers until she found the right one. She stood at the front gate for a long moment, gathering her courage. Then she walked up the path and knocked on the door. A woman in her 60s answered. She had gray hair and kind eyes and looked at Maya with polite curiosity. Can I help you? I'm looking for Rosa Thompson. I think she might be your mother. The woman's expression changed. The kindness faded. Her eyes went hard. Who are you? What do you want with my mother? My name is Maya Johnson. I need to talk to Rosa about something that happened 50 years ago. Something involving Victoria Sterling. Dorothy's face went pale. That name. We don't speak that name in this house. Please, I know your mother worked for Victoria. I know she helped Victoria's son, and I know Victoria paid her to keep quiet. How do you know that? Maya pulled the letters from her bag. Because I found these in Victoria's office. Letters your mother wrote. Letters that prove what really happened. Dorothy stared at the letters. Her hands trembled. My mother is 82 years old. She's been through enough. She doesn't need strangers showing up and digging up the past. I understand, but Victoria is doing it again. She's trying to destroy another woman for doing the same thing your mother did, and if I can't prove that Victoria is a hypocrite, an innocent baby is going to suffer. Dorothy was quiet for a long moment. Then she stepped back from the door. Come inside, but I'm warning you, if you upset my mother, I'll throw you out myself. Rosa Thompson was sitting in a wheelchair by the window. She was small and frail, her dark skin creased with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. Mama, Dorothy said, this woman wants to talk to you about Victoria Sterling. Rosa's hands tightened on the arms of her wheelchair. That woman, after all these years. Maya knelt beside Rosa's chair. Mrs. Thompson, I know this is hard, but I need your help. Victoria is trying to destroy me for doing the same thing you did 50 years ago. She's trying to take a baby away from his family. What baby? Her own grandson, Ethan. He was dying. I saved his life by nursing him. Now Victoria is calling me a criminal for it. Rosa's eyes widened. She did that to her own grandson? Yes, she would rather let him die than admit that someone like me could save him. Rosa was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took Maya's hand. 50 years ago, I was 22. I had just had my first baby. Victoria Sterling called me to her house and offered me more money than I'd ever seen. Her baby was starving just like your baby. Her milk wouldn't come in. The doctors couldn't help. Maya nodded. What happened? I nursed David Sterling for 18 months. Every day I would go to that house and feed that baby like he was my own. And every day Victoria would remind me that I was nothing. That I was just a tool she was using. That if I ever told anyone, she would destroy me. And when it was over, Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She paid me $5,000 and made me sign papers saying I would never speak of it. She said if I broke my promise, she would have my children taken away. She knew people, judges, police. I was so scared. But you're not scared anymore, Rosa looked at Maya with fierce determination. I'm 82 years old. I've been carrying this secret my whole life. I watched Victoria Sterling become rich and powerful while I struggled to pay my bills. I watched her pretend to be a perfect wife and mother while I knew the truth. And I'm tired. I'm tired of being afraid. Does that mean you'll testify? If there's a hearing, will you tell the judge what really happened? Rosa squeezed Maya's hand. I'll do more than testify. I'll tell the whole world what Victoria Sterling really is. Maya flew back to Connecticut with Rosa Thompson and Dorothy. Caroline and David met them at the airport. When David saw Rosa, he froze. His face went white. You're the woman from the letters. Rosa looked at him with complex emotions. You look just like you did when you were a baby. I'd know that face anywhere. David's voice cracked. You saved my life. I did what any mother would do. I fed a hungry baby. David started crying. Right there in the airport, surrounded by strangers, David Sterling broke down and sobbed. I didn't know. My whole life I didn't know. Rosa opened her arms. David fell into them like a child. I know, baby. I know you didn't know. That's not your fault. They stood there for a long time. Maya watched with tears streaming down her own face. This was what Victoria had hidden for 50 years. Not just a secret, a relationship, a bond, a woman who had saved David's life and never got to tell him. When David finally pulled back, his eyes were red, but his jaw was set. We're going to destroy her, my mother. We're going to tell everyone what she did. Not destroy, Rosa said gently. Expose. There's a difference. What's the difference? Destruction is revenge. Exposure is truth. We're not doing this to hurt Victoria. We're doing this to protect that baby. David nodded slowly. You're right. You're absolutely right. Caroline stepped forward. The hearing is in 10 days. We need to prepare Rosa's testimony. We need to get lawyers involved. We need to make sure this works. It will work, Maya said. It has to work. But she didn't know that Victoria was already 3 steps ahead of them. The next morning, Maya woke up to pounding on her apartment door. She stumbled out of bed and opened it. 2 police officers stood in the hallway. Maya Johnson. Yes. You're under arrest for child endangerment, practicing medicine without a license, and assault of a minor. Maya's world collapsed. What? That's insane. I didn't assault anyone. Ma'am, please turn around and put your hands behind your back. You have to listen to me. This is a mistake. Victoria Sterling is doing this. She's trying to silence me. Ma'am, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. They handcuffed her. They led her down the stairs of her building. Her neighbors watched from their doorways. Mrs. Patterson from 3B, Mr. Chen from 2A, people she had known for years. They all watched as Maya Johnson was put into the back of a police car. The booking process took 6 hours. Fingerprints, photographs, paperwork, questions that went in circles. Maya was put in a holding cell with 3 other women. The walls were gray. The bench was cold. The toilet had no door. She sat there for 12 hours before Caroline finally got her out on bail. When Maya walked out of the police station, Caroline was waiting with a lawyer. His name was James Morrison, and he looked like he cost more money than Maya would make in a year. Mrs. Sterling hired me to represent you, James said. She's paying all legal fees. Why would she do that? Because you saved her son's life, and because she feels responsible for what's happening to you. Maya looked at Caroline. Where's Ethan? Still in foster care, but the hearing is in 9 days. We're going to get him back. And these charges against me, James handed her a folder. Assault of a minor, child endangerment, practicing medicine without a license, all based on a sworn statement from Victoria Sterling. Maya opened the folder. Victoria's statement was 10 pages long. It painted Maya as a predator who had manipulated Caroline, who had forced herself on baby Ethan, who had caused deliberate harm. Every word was a lie. Can she do this? Maya asked. Can she just make up lies and have me arrested? She can file charges. Whether they stick depends on the evidence. And right now, all the evidence is on your side. Then why am I the one in handcuffs? James sighed. Because Victoria Sterling has spent 50 years building relationships with judges, prosecutors, and police chiefs. She has more power in Connecticut than most governors, and she's using all of it to destroy you. Maya felt the weight of everything pressing down on her. The charges, the custody battle, the impossible fight against a woman with unlimited resources. Why? Maya whispered. Why is she doing this? I saved her grandson's life. I exposed her hypocrisy, but I haven't told anyone outside the family. Why is she trying to destroy me? Caroline took Maya's hand. Because you're the only one who ever stood up to her. You're the only one who ever made her afraid. And Victoria Sterling destroys anything that makes her afraid. The days leading up to the hearing were a blur. James Morrison worked around the clock preparing their case. He took depositions from Dr. Patterson from the CPS investigator, Patricia Williams from everyone who had witnessed Ethan's miraculous recovery. Rosa Thompson gave a sworn statement describing everything that had happened 50 years ago. Dorothy corroborated her mother's story with family records and photographs. David Sterling wrote a letter to the judge admitting that his mother had been using a wet nurse for him as an infant. He called it a family secret that should never have been kept. And through it all, Maya waited. She couldn't work. She couldn't sleep. She could barely eat. Every night she dreamed about Ethan, about holding him, about feeding him, about the way he used to smile at her. And every morning she woke up to an empty apartment and the crushing weight of uncertainty. 3 days before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Maya was sitting in Caroline's kitchen when the doorbell rang. Caroline went to answer it and came back with a strange expression on her face. Someone's here to see you. Maya walked to the front door. An elderly black woman stood on the porch. She was well-dressed and dignified, with silver hair and sharp eyes. You're Maya Johnson, the woman said. It wasn't a question. Yes, who are you? My name is Harriet Morrison. I was a wet nurse 40 years ago, like Rosa Thompson, like you. Maya stared at her. How did you find me? I saw the news, what Victoria Sterling is doing to you, and I couldn't stay silent anymore. The news? Harriet handed Maya her phone. On the screen was a news article. Sterling family in scandal, grandmother accuses maid of child abuse. Maya's face was in the article, her name, her address, everything. Victoria had gone public. She's trying to destroy you before the hearing, Harriet said. She wants everyone to see you as a criminal before you can tell your side of the story. Maya felt sick. I can't fight this. She has newspapers, television. I have nothing. You have the truth, and you have us. Us? Harriet smiled. Do you think Rosa Thompson and I are the only ones Victoria Sterling isn't the only wealthy woman who needed help? There are dozens of us. Women who nursed other people's babies because the mothers couldn't do it themselves. Women who were paid to keep quiet. Women who are tired of being invisible. Maya looked at this woman, at the determination in her eyes. What are you saying? I'm saying that we're going to stand with you, all of us, at the hearing, in the press, wherever we need to be, because what Victoria Sterling is doing to you, she could do to any of us, and it's time for the world to know the truth about how many babies we saved. The night before the hearing, Maya couldn't sleep. She sat in her apartment looking at the photo of Marcus that she kept by her bed. His tiny face, his perfect fingers, the son she couldn't save. I'm trying, baby, she whispered. I'm trying to make things right. Her phone buzzed. A text from Caroline. Tomorrow is the day. Whatever happens, thank you for saving my son. Maya typed back, whatever happens, it was worth it. She meant it. Even if she went to prison, even if she lost everything. Saving Ethan had been the right thing to do. She fell asleep with Marcus's photo in her hands. And now, before we continue, I want to pause and say thank you. Thank you for staying with this story. Thank you for caring about Maya and Ethan and all these women who did extraordinary things with ordinary love. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button right now and drop a comment telling me what you think is going to happen at the hearing. I read every single comment and I love seeing your predictions. Now let's get back to the story. The hearing was held at the Stamford Family Court at 9 in the morning. Maya arrived early with James Morrison. She wore the nicest dress she owned, a simple black one she had bought for Marcus's funeral. It felt appropriate somehow. Caroline and David were already there. So was Rosa Thompson in her wheelchair with Dorothy pushing her. And behind them, filling the hallway, were the other women. Harriet Morrison had kept her promise. She had gathered 17 women, all former wet nurses, all ready to testify. They ranged in age from 50 to 85. Black women, white women, Latina women. All of them united by the same experience. All of them ready to tell the truth. Victoria Sterling arrived at exactly 9 o'clock. She was dressed in a designer suit, her silver hair perfectly styled, her face a mask of cold confidence. When she saw the women in the hallway, she stopped. For just a moment, her mask slipped. Maya saw the fear underneath. Then Victoria composed herself and walked into the courtroom without a word. The judge's name was Harold Patterson. He was in his 60s with gray hair and a stern face. Maya wondered if he was another one of Victoria's friends. This hearing is to determine custody of the minor child, Ethan Sterling, Judge Patterson began. The child was removed from his parents' home based on allegations of child endangerment. Today we will hear evidence from both sides. Victoria's lawyer spoke first. He was slick and polished, the kind of lawyer who charged $1,000 an hour. Your Honor, my client is a concerned grandmother who witnessed disturbing behavior toward her grandson. A household employee was found nursing the child without proper consent, without medical supervision, and without regard for the child's welfare. Objection, James Morrison said. The child was dying. Multiple medical professionals had failed to save him. The actions taken were last resort life-saving measures endorsed by the child's own mother. The mother was not competent to make that decision, Victoria's lawyer countered. She was suffering from postpartum depression and was manipulated by the defendant. Maya felt her hands clench into fists, manipulated, like she was some kind of predator. Judge Patterson held up his hand. I'll hear testimony from all parties. Let's start with the medical evidence. Dr. Patterson testified first. He described Ethan's condition before Maya intervened. The failure to thrive, the weight loss, the declining vital signs. In my medical opinion, Dr. Patterson said the child would not have survived another week without some form of intervention. The breast milk provided by Miss Johnson saved his life. Victoria's lawyer tried to attack the testimony. But doctor, isn't it true that there are medical protocols for donor milk screening procedures, safety requirements? Yes, there are. In an ideal situation, those protocols would be followed. And were they followed in this case? No, but this was not an ideal situation. This was an emergency. Next came Rosa Thompson. Dorothy wheeled her mother to the front of the courtroom. Rosa sat up straight in her wheelchair, her eyes fixed on Victoria. Mrs. Thompson, James Morrison said, "Can you tell the court about your relationship with Victoria Sterling?" Rosa's voice was steady. In 1975, Victoria Sterling hired me to nurse her infant son David. Her milk had not come in, and her baby was starving. I fed David Sterling for 18 months. A murmur went through the courtroom. Judge Patterson leaned forward. You're saying that the complainant in this case, Victoria Sterling herself, employed a wet nurse? Yes, Your Honor. I have letters and payment records to prove it. Victoria's lawyer jumped up. Objection. This is hearsay. This has nothing to do with the current case. It goes directly to the credibility of the complainant, James Morrison said. Mrs. Sterling is accusing Maya Johnson of child endangerment for doing exactly what she herself did 50 years ago. Judge Patterson nodded slowly. I'll allow the testimony. Continue. Rosa told her story, the secret arrangement, the payments, the threats, the $5,000 to stay quiet. When she finished, Victoria was pale. Her hands were shaking. Mrs. Sterling. Judge Patterson said, "Do you have any response to this testimony?" Victoria's lawyer whispered frantically in her ear. Victoria pushed him away. That was different, Victoria said. The circumstances were completely different. How so? I was a young mother. I was alone. I had no choice. And Mrs. Sterling, the mother in this case, was also a young mother, also alone, also with no choice. How is her situation different from yours? Victoria couldn't answer. The courtroom fell silent. Then Judge Patterson called Maya to testify. Maya walked to the witness stand. Her legs were shaking. Her heart was pounding so hard she could barely hear herself think. James Morrison smiled at her reassuringly. Miss Johnson, can you tell the court why you decided to help baby Ethan? Maya took a deep breath. She looked at the judge, at Victoria, at Caroline and David, at all the women who had come to support her. Because I'm a mother too. Was a mother. My son Marcus died 6 weeks before I started working for the Sterling family, SIDS. One morning he just didn't wake up. The courtroom went quiet. Maya felt tears building behind her eyes. When I saw Ethan dying, I saw my son. I saw the baby I couldn't save, and I thought maybe God gave me this chance. Maybe he sent me to that house because he knew I could help. And did anyone force you to help? Did you insert yourself into the family as Mrs. Sterling claims? No, Mrs. Caroline Sterling begged me to help. She got on her knees and begged. Her baby was dying in front of her, and I was the only one who could do anything. How could I say no? What kind of person would say no? Victoria's lawyer stood up. Tom! Miss Johnson, isn't it true that you never disclosed your medical history to the Sterling family, that you never submitted to screening or testing? I had full blood work done after my son died. I was completely healthy. I showed those results to the family. But not before you nursed the child. You nursed him first and disclosed information later. Because he was dying. There wasn't time for paperwork. In your opinion, but you're not a doctor, are you? No, I'm a mother who lost her child, and I wasn't going to let another mother lose hers if I could help it. The lawyer sat down. He had nothing else to say. Judge Patterson looked at the 17 women sitting in the gallery. I understand there are additional witnesses who wish to testify. One by one they came forward. Harriet Morrison, 72 years old, nursed 3 babies in the 1980s. Gloria Washington, 68, nursed twins whose mother died in childbirth. Sarah Chen, 55, nursed her sister's baby when her sister was diagnosed with cancer. Each woman told her story. Each story was different, but the message was the same. We saved lives, we loved babies that weren't ours, and we did nothing wrong. By the time the last woman finished testifying, Judge Patterson's face had changed. The sternness was gone. In its place was something Maya hadn't expected. Respect. I've heard enough, Judge Patterson said. I'm ready to make my ruling. The courtroom held its breath. The allegations against Maya Johnson are dismissed. The evidence clearly shows that her actions, while unconventional, were life-saving measures taken with the consent of the child's mother. There is no evidence of harm, no evidence of criminal intent, and no evidence that the child was endangered by Miss Johnson's care. Caroline let out a sob of relief. Furthermore, the judge continued, I am returning Ethan Sterling to his parents' custody immediately. The original removal order was based on incomplete and misleading information, and I find that the complaint was filed in bad faith. He turned to look directly at Victoria. Mrs. Sterling, I am deeply troubled by your conduct in this matter. You have used your influence and resources to persecute a woman who saved your grandson's life. You have filed false reports, made misleading statements, and attempted to manipulate the judicial system for personal revenge. I am referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of potential perjury and filing false reports." Victoria's face went white. Her lawyer grabbed her arm, but she shook him off. "You can't do this," Victoria said. "Do you know who I am? Do you know what I've built?" "I know exactly who you are, Mrs. Sterling. You're a woman who has spent 50 years hiding the truth about your own past while judging others for doing the same thing. That ends today." The bailiff stepped forward. "Ma'am, you need to sit down." Victoria looked around the courtroom, at the judge, at the witnesses, at her son who wouldn't meet her eyes. For the first time in her life, Victoria Sterling had no power, no control, no escape. She sat down heavily in her chair. Her shoulders slumped, her mask crumbled. She looked like a very old, very tired woman. Judge Patterson turned to Caroline and David. "Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, your son will be returned to you within the hour. I wish your family healing and peace." Caroline was crying. David was crying. Maya was crying. It was over. They had won. An hour later, Maya stood in the lobby of the courthouse and watched Caroline hold Ethan for the first time in 2 weeks. The baby looked thinner, paler. His eyes weren't as bright as they had been. "He's hungry," Caroline said, her voice breaking. "They tried to give him formula, but he wouldn't eat. He's been waiting for you." Maya took Ethan in her arms. The baby looked up at her and smiled. That same smile she remembered. That same trust. "I've got you, little one," Maya whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." She found a quiet room in the courthouse. Caroline stood guard, outside, and for the first time in 2 weeks, Maya fed Ethan the way only she could. The baby drank desperately hungrily, like he had been waiting for this moment. His tiny hands gripped Maya's uniform. His eyes closed with contentment. When he finally finished, he fell asleep in her arms. Really asleep. Peacefully. Maya held him for a long time, watching him breathe. She thought about Marcus, about the son she lost, about how that loss had led her here, to this moment, to this baby who needed her. Maybe there was a reason for everything. Maybe losing Marcus had been part of some larger plan. Maybe she was always meant to save Ethan. Or maybe life was just random and cruel, and the only thing that mattered was what you did with the time you had. Either way, Maya was grateful. Grateful for this moment. Grateful for this baby. Grateful for the chance to love again. Caroline appeared in the doorway. "There's someone here to see you." Maya looked up. "Who? Rosa Thompson. She wants to say goodbye before she goes back to Atlanta." Maya carried Ethan out to the lobby. Rosa was sitting in her wheelchair, looking tired but peaceful. "You did it," Rosa said. "You stood up to Victoria Sterling and won." "We did it," Maya corrected. "All of us. I couldn't have done this alone." Rosa reached out and touched Ethan's tiny hand. "He's beautiful. He's going to grow up to be a good man." "How do you know?" "Because he's been loved. By his mother, by you, by all the women who fought for him. A baby that's been loved like that, he carries it with him forever." Maya knelt beside Rosa's wheelchair. "Thank you for coming here, for telling the truth after all these years." Rosa smiled. "Thank you for giving me the courage to finally speak. I've been silent for 50 years. It feels good to finally have a voice." Dorothy came to wheel her mother away. At the courthouse doors, Rosa turned back one last time. "Maya, don't ever let anyone tell you that what you did was wrong. Feeding a hungry baby is never wrong. Loving a child that needs you is never wrong. Remember that." Maya nodded. "I will." Rosa and Dorothy disappeared through the doors. Maya looked down at Ethan, still sleeping peacefully in her arms. "You hear that, little one? You're loved, and that's never wrong." David approached her. His eyes were still red from crying. "Maya, I owe you everything. My son's life, my family's future, all of it. You don't owe me anything. I did what any mother would do." "But you're not his mother. You had no obligation to him. You risked everything for a baby that wasn't yours." Maya looked at Ethan's peaceful face. "Maybe not by blood. But when you feed a baby, when you hold him close and feel his heart beating against yours, something changes. He became mine too, in a way that's hard to explain." David nodded slowly. "I think I understand." "What's going to happen to your mother?" David's face hardened. "She'll face charges for filing false reports. Her reputation is destroyed. Sterling Pharmaceuticals board is calling for her resignation. Everything she built is crumbling." "Does that make you happy?" David thought about it for a long moment. "No, it makes me sad. She's my mother. She raised me. She did terrible things, but she's still my mother. I wish she could have seen the truth. I wish she could have just been grateful that Ethan is alive. Maybe someday she will. Maybe, but I'm not counting on it. Caroline joined them. She took Ethan from Maya's arms and held him close. Let's go home, Caroline said. All of us, together. Maya hesitated. I don't want to intrude. You need time as a family. You are the family, Caroline said firmly. You saved my son. You're part of us now, forever. Maya looked at Caroline, at David, at Ethan. She had come to the Sterling house as a maid. She had stayed invisible for months, cleaning floors and dusting furniture and pretending she didn't exist. Now she was family. Life was strange that way. They walked out of the courthouse together. The sun was shining. The air was crisp and clean. It felt like the first day of something new. But as they reached the car, Maya saw something that made her blood run cold. Victoria Sterling was standing across the street. Alone. Her lawyer had left. Her driver had left. Everyone had left. She was just standing there watching them. Maya met Victoria's eyes. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then Victoria turned and walked away. Her shoulders were slumped. Her steps were slow. She looked defeated. But Maya had seen that look before. In the nursery. Right before Victoria made her first phone call to CPS, Victoria Sterling wasn't defeated. She was planning. And whatever she was planning, Maya knew it wasn't over. Not yet. 2 weeks passed after the hearing. 2 weeks of peace. 2 weeks of normalcy. 2 weeks where Maya almost forgot what fear felt like. She had moved into the Sterling mansion at Caroline's insistence. Not as a maid anymore, but as family. She had her own room on the second floor just down the hall from the nursery. She had a salary that made her old wages look like pocket change. She had a purpose. Every morning she fed Ethan. Every evening she held him until he fell asleep. Every day she watched him grow stronger, healthier, more alive. It was everything she had ever wanted, everything she thought she had lost when Marcus died. But Maya couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She saw Victoria's face in her dreams. Those cold eyes watching from across the street. That look of calculation and planning. Victoria Sterling had lost a battle, but Maya knew in her bones that the war wasn't over. On the 15th day, Maya woke up at 3 a.m. to the sound of Ethan crying. She jumped out of bed and ran to the nursery. Caroline was already there, pacing the floor with Ethan in her arms. He won't stop crying, Caroline said. Her voice was ragged with exhaustion. I've tried everything. He won't eat. He won't sleep. He just keeps crying. Maya took Ethan from Caroline's arms. The baby's face was red and scrunched. His cry was strong now, not the weak wail from before, but there was something wrong. Has he been like this all night? Since midnight, I didn't want to wake you, but I don't know what else to do. Maya checked Ethan's temperature. Normal. She checked his diaper. Clean. She tried to feed him, but he turned his head away. This isn't hunger, Maya said. Something else is bothering him. Chiffui. David appeared in the doorway, his hair disheveled, his eyes puffy with sleep. What's wrong? Is Ethan okay? We don't know. He won't stop crying. David's face went pale. Should we call Dr. Patterson? At 3 a.m. I don't care what time it is. If something's wrong with my son, I want to know. David made the call. Dr. Patterson promised to come first thing in the morning. They spent the rest of the night taking turns holding Ethan. He cried for another hour before finally falling into an exhausted sleep. When Dr. Patterson arrived at 7, Ethan was still sleeping. He seems fine now, the doctor said after examining him. Sometimes babies just have fussy nights. It doesn't necessarily mean anything is wrong. But he wouldn't eat, Caroline said. He always eats. Could be teething, could be a growth spurt, could be nothing at all. Keep an eye on him. If it happens again, bring him to my office. After the doctor left, Maya sat in the nursery with Ethan. Something still felt wrong. She couldn't explain it. Just a feeling in her gut. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think you won? You didn't. This is just the beginning. Maya's blood turned to ice. She showed the text to Caroline. Victoria, Caroline said immediately. It has to be. Should we call the police? And tell them what? That my mother-in-law sent a threatening text. They won't do anything. But we can't just ignore it. Caroline took Maya's hands. We won't ignore it, but we also won't let her terrorize us. That's what she wants. She wants us to be afraid. Maya looked at the text again. Those 8 words that felt like a knife in her chest. This is just the beginning. What did that mean? What was Victoria planning? The answer came 3 days later. Maya was in the kitchen making lunch when the doorbell rang. She went to answer it and found a process server standing on the porch. Maya Johnson. Yes? The man handed her an envelope. You've been served. Maya's hands trembled as she opened the envelope. Inside was a lawsuit. Victoria Sterling was suing Maya for $1 million. The charges were defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and invasion of privacy. Victoria claimed that Maya had stolen her private letters and used them to publicly humiliate her. She claimed that Maya had orchestrated a media campaign to destroy her reputation. She claimed that Maya had caused her severe psychological trauma. Maya read the lawsuit 3 times. Each time her stomach dropped further. $1 million. She didn't have $1 million. She didn't have $100,000. She barely had $10,000 in savings. If Victoria won this lawsuit, Maya would lose everything. Caroline found Maya sitting on the kitchen floor, the lawsuit scattered around her. What happened? What's wrong? Maya handed her the papers without speaking. Caroline read them. Her face went from confused to horrified to furious. That witch! That evil, vindictive witch! She's going to take everything from me. My savings, my future, everything. No, she's not. We'll fight this. David and I will pay for lawyers. We'll find the best attorneys in the country. You've already done so much. I can't ask you to pay for this too. Caroline knelt down beside Maya. You didn't ask. I'm offering. You saved my son's life. I would spend every penny I have to protect you. Maya started crying. She couldn't help it. The stress, the fear, the constant fighting. It was all too much. I just wanted to help a baby, Maya sobbed. That's all I wanted to do. Why can't she just leave me alone? Caroline held her while she cried. They sat on the kitchen floor for a long time, 2 women bound together by love and loss and a baby who needed them both. That night, David called a family meeting. I've hired the best civil litigation firm in Connecticut, David said. They've reviewed the lawsuit. They say Victoria doesn't have a case. Then why did she file it? Maya asked. To harass you, to drain your resources, to make your life miserable. Even if she loses the lawsuit, could take years. The legal fees could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So she wins either way. David shook his head. Not necessarily. My lawyers have a plan. They want to countersue Victoria for malicious prosecution and abuse of process. If we can prove that she filed this lawsuit in bad faith, she'll have to pay our legal fees, and she'll face sanctions from the court. Can we prove that? We have the judge's ruling from the custody hearing. He specifically said Victoria filed false reports and acted in bad faith. That's powerful evidence. Maya felt a tiny spark of hope. So there's a chance? There's more than a chance. My lawyers think we can win. Caroline leaned forward. But there's something else we need to discuss. Something that might end this once and for all. What? Going public. Telling our whole story to the media. Everything. Victoria's secret. Rosa Thompson. All of it. Maya's heart started pounding. You want to put this in the news? Victoria already put it in the news when she accused you of assault. She tried to destroy your reputation. Maybe it's time we destroyed hers. David nodded slowly. There's a reporter at the New York Times who's been following the story. She wants to do a feature piece. The secret history of wet nurses in America. She thinks it could be a national conversation. Maya thought about what that would mean. Her face in newspapers, her story on television, her most intimate moments shared with the world. I don't know, Maya said. I'm not sure I want to be famous. You wouldn't be famous, Caroline said. You'd be a symbol of all the women who have been shamed for loving children that weren't their own, all the wet nurses who were hidden and silenced, all the mothers who did what they had to do to save their babies. What about Ethan? What about his privacy? We can protect Ethan. No photos, no names, just the story. Maya was quiet for a long moment. She thought about Rosa Thompson, who had carried her secret for 50 years. She thought about all the women at the courthouse who had stood up and told their truth. She thought about her own mother, who had spent her whole life being invisible. Maybe it was time to be seen. Okay, Maya said. Let's do it. The New York Times article came out 2 weeks later. It was titled, "The Women Who Fed America's Babies, A Hidden History of Sacrifice and Shame." Maya was on the front page. Not her face, but her silhouette holding a baby against her chest. The article told everything. Victoria's hypocrisy. Rosa Thompson's 50-year silence. The lawsuit that was meant to destroy Maya. The 17 women who had stood up in court. Within 24 hours, the article had gone viral. Maya's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from reporters, messages from strangers, thousands of comments on social media, mostly supportive, some hateful, all overwhelming. Caroline had to disconnect the mansion's doorbell because journalists kept showing up unannounced. But the real impact wasn't on Maya, it was on Victoria. The morning after the article came out, Sterling Pharmaceuticals held an emergency board meeting. By noon, Victoria had been removed as chairman. By evening, she had resigned from the board entirely. 50 years of building an empire. Gone in 24 hours. Maya should have felt satisfied. She should have felt vindicated. Instead, she felt empty. "Why don't I feel happy?" Maya asked Caroline that night. "She tried to destroy me. She almost took Ethan away. Why don't I feel good about what happened to her?" Caroline thought about it. "Because you're not a vengeful person. You never wanted to destroy Victoria. You just wanted her to leave you alone." "But she wouldn't. She kept coming after me." "And now she's lost everything. Her company, her reputation, her son. She's alone." Maya looked toward the window. Somewhere out there, Victoria Sterling was facing the consequences of her actions. "Do you think she'll stop now?" Caroline shook her head. "I don't know. I've known Victoria for 10 years, and I still don't understand her. She's lost everything, but that might just make her more dangerous." Maya shivered. She hoped Caroline was wrong. But deep down, she knew she wasn't. "Now I need to pause here and tell you something. If this story is touching your heart the way it's touching mine, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. These stories take hours to create, and your support means the world to me. Now, let's continue. The next morning, Maya received a phone call that changed everything. It was from James Morrison, her lawyer. "Victoria wants to meet with you, privately. No lawyers, no family, just the two of you." Maya's heart stopped. "Why?" She didn't say, but she dropped the lawsuit this morning. No explanation, just dropped it. "That doesn't make sense. Why would she drop the lawsuit and then want to meet?" "I don't know, but I think you should consider it." "Are you crazy? She tried to destroy me?" "And now she's lost everything." People change when they lose everything, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Every instinct told her to say no. To stay away from Victoria Sterling forever. But something else whispered in her mind, a memory of Victoria's face outside the courthouse. The way she had looked. Defeated, broken. Maybe there was a reason Victoria wanted to meet. Where does she want to do this? Her house, tomorrow at noon? Her house? I'm not going to her house alone. You don't have to. I'm just telling you what she asked. Maya thought about it. She thought about everything Victoria had done. The threats, the CPS reports, the lawsuit, all of it. And then she thought about something Rosa Thompson had said at the courthouse. Exposure is truth. We're not doing this to hurt Victoria. We're doing this to protect that baby. Maybe it was time to face Victoria, not with anger, not with revenge, but with truth. Tell her I'll come, but I'm choosing the location, a public place, and I'm bringing someone with me. Who? Rosa Thompson. The meeting took place at a coffee shop in downtown Greenwich. Neutral territory, public enough to be safe, private enough for honest conversation. Maya arrived first with Rosa. The elderly woman had flown back from Atlanta when Maya called. "Are you sure about this?" Rosa asked. "I haven't seen Victoria Sterling in 50 years. I'm not sure I want to see her now." "You don't have to say anything. Just be here. I need you for strength." Rosa squeezed Maya's hand. "Then I'm here." Victoria arrived at exactly noon. She looked different. Smaller somehow. Her designer clothes were replaced by a simple black dress. Her perfect hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail. Her face, usually covered in makeup, was bare. She looked human. For the first time, she looked completely human. Victoria saw Rosa and froze. "You brought her?" "I did." Victoria stood there for a long moment. Then she walked to their table and sat down. "I suppose I deserve that." "You deserve a lot worse," Maya said. "But we're not here for revenge. You wanted to talk, so talk." Victoria was quiet. Her hands were clasped in front of her. Her eyes were fixed on the table. "I've had a lot of time to think these past few days," Victoria said finally, "sitting alone in my empty house, watching everything I built crumble around me." "Is that supposed to make me feel sorry for you?" "No, it's supposed to explain what I'm about to say." Victoria looked up. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. "I'm sorry." Maya stared at her. Of all the things she expected Victoria to say, that wasn't one of them. "You're sorry." For everything, for the CPS reports, for the lawsuit, for calling you filthy and contaminated, for trying to destroy your life. Why did you do all of it? Victoria's voice cracked. Because I was afraid. My whole life I've been afraid. Afraid of what people would think. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of the truth. The truth about Rosa. Victoria looked at Rosa for the first time. The two women stared at each other across the table. The truth about everything, Victoria said. When David was born, I couldn't feed him. My milk never came in. The doctor said he would die without intervention. So you hired Rosa. I hired Rosa, and she saved my son's life, just like you saved my grandson's life. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. But instead of being grateful, I was ashamed. I paid Rosa to disappear because I couldn't stand the thought of anyone knowing that I had needed help, that I had failed. You didn't fail, Rosa said quietly. Your body didn't do what you wanted. That's not the same as failing. I know that now, but back then I was young, I was proud. I had built my whole identity on being perfect, being in control, having everything handled. Victoria wiped her eyes. When I found out what Caroline had done, what you had done, it brought back all those feelings. The shame, the fear, the sense of failure, and instead of dealing with them, I lashed out. I tried to destroy you so I wouldn't have to face my own truth. Maya listened. Part of her wanted to believe Victoria. Part of her was still suspicious. Why should I believe you? You've lied about everything. You shouldn't believe me. I haven't earned your trust. I may never earn it, but I had to try to explain. I had to try to make you understand. Understand what? That I'm not evil, I'm just human. I made terrible choices out of fear and shame, and I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry. The coffee shop was quiet. The other customers chatted and typed on laptops, unaware of the moment unfolding at this small table in the corner. Rosa reached across the table and touched Victoria's hand. I spent 50 years hating you, Rosa said. 50 years carrying anger and resentment, wondering why you threw me away like garbage after I saved your son. Victoria flinched. I know, and I'm sorry. Let me finish. I spent 50 years hating you. But watching you right now, seeing you stripped of everything you built, I don't feel satisfied. I feel sad. Sad? Sad for the years you wasted protecting a lie. Sad for the relationships you destroyed because you couldn't be honest. Sad for the woman you could have been if you hadn't been so afraid. Victoria started crying openly now. Not the controlled tears she used in public. Real, ugly, broken sobs. I'm 82 years old, Rosa continued. I don't have time for hatred anymore. Life is too short, so I'm going to say something I never thought I would say. She squeezed Victoria's hand. I forgive you. Victoria looked up in shock. What? I forgive you, not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. I've carried this weight for 50 years. I'm ready to put it down. Victoria couldn't speak. She just cried and cried, holding Rosa's hand like a lifeline. Maya watched in silence. She didn't know how to feel. Part of her wanted to forgive Victoria too. Part of her wasn't ready. I'm not there yet, Maya said quietly. I can't forgive you, not yet, maybe not ever. You tried to take Ethan away. You tried to destroy my life. Those things don't just disappear because you say sorry. Victoria nodded. I understand. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know the truth. And I wanted to tell you something else. What? I'm setting up a foundation, the Rosa Thompson Foundation. It will provide support for mothers who can't breastfeed, donor milk programs, wet nurse networks, education and destigmatization. Maya stared at her. You're doing what? I'm taking everything I have left, all the money, all the resources, and I'm putting it toward helping other women. Women like you, women like Rosa, women who save babies and get shamed for it. Why? Because it's the only way I can think of to make things right. I can't undo what I did, but maybe I can prevent it from happening to someone else. Maya didn't know what to say. This wasn't the Victoria Sterling she knew. This was someone else, someone broken and remade. I want you to run it, Victoria said. Me? You're the face of this movement now. You're the one who stood up and told the truth. If anyone should be leading this foundation, it's you. Maya felt her head spinning. 3 months ago, she was a maid earning minimum wage. Now she was being offered the chance to run a foundation. I need time to think about it. Take all the time you need. The offer stands. Victoria stood up from the table. She looked at Rosa one more time. "Thank you for forgiving me. I don't deserve it, but thank you." Rosa nodded. "Go in peace, Victoria, and try to find some peace yourself." Victoria walked out of the coffee shop. Maya watched her go, still trying to process everything that had just happened. "Do you believe her?" Maya asked Rosa. "I believe she's sorry. Whether that's enough, I don't know." "Should I accept her offer? The foundation?" Rosa smiled. "That's not for me to decide, but I'll say this. You have a chance to turn all this pain into something beautiful. Not many people get that chance." Maya thought about it. She thought about Marcus, the son she couldn't save. She thought about Ethan, the son she did save. She thought about all the mothers out there struggling alone, ashamed to ask for help. Maybe this was her purpose. Maybe everything that had happened, all the pain, all the fighting, all the heartbreak had been leading to this moment. "I need to talk to Caroline and David first," Maya said. "And I need to see Ethan." "Then go see your family." Maya hugged Rosa tightly. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for everything." "Thank you for giving an old woman her voice back." Maya drove back to the Sterling mansion with her mind racing. When she walked through the front door, Caroline was waiting in the foyer. "How did it go?" "She apologized. She dropped the lawsuit. She offered me a job." Caroline's eyes went wide. "A job?" "She's starting a foundation to help mothers who can't breastfeed. She wants me to run it." Caroline was silent for a long moment. Then she started laughing. "What's so funny?" "Life. Life is funny. 3 months ago you were cleaning our toilets. Now Victoria Sterling wants you to run her foundation." Maya couldn't help but smile. "It does sound crazy when you say it out loud." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. Can I see Ethan?" "He's in the nursery. David is with him." Maya walked upstairs. David was sitting in the rocking chair holding Ethan. The baby was awake playing with David's finger. "Hey," David said. "How was the meeting?" "Complicated. I'll tell you about it later. Can I hold him?" David handed Ethan to Maya. The baby looked up at her and smiled. That same smile that had melted her heart from the very beginning. "Hi, little one," Maya whispered. "I missed you today." Ethan grabbed a fistful of Maya's hair. She laughed and gently untangled his fingers. "You know," David said, "Ethan's going to need to start transitioning to solid food soon. He's getting older. He won't need breast milk forever." Maya felt a pang in her chest. She had known this day was coming, the day when Ethan wouldn't need her anymore. "I know. Have you thought about what you'll do when he doesn't need you to feed him?" Maya looked at Ethan, at his bright eyes and pink cheeks, at the life she had given him. "Victoria offered me a job today, running a foundation, to help other mothers." David raised his eyebrows. "My mother offered you a job. She said she's changed. She apologized for everything." "And you believe her?" "I don't know. Rosa forgave her, but I'm not sure I can." David was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised Maya. "My mother did terrible things. She hurt you. She hurt Caroline. She hurt this whole family, but she's also the woman who raised me, who sacrificed everything to give me a good life. I don't know how to reconcile those two things." "Maybe you don't have to. Maybe people can be both, good and bad, kind and cruel, all at the same time. Do you really believe that—" Maya thought about it. She thought about her own life, the good choices and the bad ones, the moments of courage and the moments of weakness. "I think I do. I think that's what being human means." Ethan yawned in her arms. His eyes started to close. "He's tired," Maya said. "I'll put him down." She carried Ethan to his crib and laid him gently on his back. He was asleep before she even let go. Maya stood there, watching him breathe. This baby who had changed her life. This baby who had given her a reason to keep living when she thought she had nothing left. She made a decision. She was going to accept Victoria's offer. Not because she forgave Victoria, not because she trusted her, but because this was bigger than both of them. This was about all the mothers out there who needed help, all the babies who needed feeding, all the women who had been shamed for doing what was natural and right. If Maya could use Victoria's money and resources to help them, she was going to do it. For Ethan, for Marcus, for Rosa, for all of them. She walked downstairs and found Caroline and David waiting in the living room. "I've made a decision," Maya said. "I'm going to run the foundation." Caroline smiled. "I thought you might say that. But I have conditions. Victoria doesn't get to control anything. She provides the money, but I make the decisions. And the first thing I'm going to do is find Rosa Thompson and make sure she never has to worry about money again." David nodded. "That seems fair. There's one more thing." "What?" Maya took a deep breath. "I want to adopt. Not Ethan. He has parents. But there are other babies out there who need homes. Babies like Marcus. Babies who don't have anyone." Caroline's eyes filled with tears. "Maya, that's beautiful. It might take years. I might never be approved. But I want to try. I want to give a child what I couldn't give Marcus." David stood up and hugged Maya. "Whatever you need, we're here for you, always." Maya felt the tears coming. She let them fall. For the first time in months, she wasn't crying from sadness or fear. She was crying from hope. That night, Maya sat in her room with Marcus's photo in her hands. "I think I finally understand," she whispered to her son, "why you had to leave. Why I had to go through all that pain." She touched his tiny face in the photograph. "You sent me to Ethan. You sent me to this family. And now you're sending me to help other babies, other mothers. I can feel it." She kissed the photo. "I'm going to make you proud, Marcus. I promise. Everything I do from now on, I do for you." She placed the photo on her nightstand and looked out the window at the stars. Tomorrow would be a new day, a new chapter, a new beginning. But tonight, Maya allowed herself to rest, to feel peace, to believe that maybe, just maybe, the worst was finally behind her. She didn't know that in 3 days she would receive a phone call that would change everything again. She didn't know that Victoria's apology was just the beginning of a much bigger story, and she didn't know that the greatest challenge of her life was still waiting for her. But for now, for this one peaceful night, Maya Johnson slept without nightmares, and that was enough. The phone call came 3 days later, just like fate had planned. Maya was in the nursery feeding Ethan when her phone buzzed. She didn't recognize the number, but answered anyway. "Miss Johnson, this is Margaret Chen from the Connecticut Adoption Services." Maya's heart stopped. She had submitted her application just 2 days ago. She didn't expect to hear anything for months. "Yes, this is Maya. I'm calling because we have an unusual situation. A newborn baby girl was surrendered at Hartford Hospital this morning. The mother was a young woman, barely 20, with no family and no resources. She asked specifically if there was anyone like you who could take her daughter." "Like me? What do you mean?" "She saw the New York Times article. She read your story. She said if anyone could love her baby the way you loved Ethan Sterling, she wanted that person to raise her daughter." Maya couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "Are you saying you want me to adopt this baby?" "I'm saying the birth mother requested you specifically. Of course, there's still a process, background checks, home visits, legal paperwork, but if you're interested, we can expedite things." Maya looked at Ethan still nursing peacefully in her arms. She thought about Marcus, about the empty nursery in her old apartment, about all the prayers she had whispered into the darkness. "Yes," Maya said. "I'm interested. I'm very interested." She hung up the phone and started crying. Caroline found her 10 minutes later still sitting in the rocking chair, with tears streaming down her face. "Maya, what happened? Is everything okay?" "They found a baby, a little girl. The mother wants me to adopt her." Caroline's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh my God, Maya, that's incredible." "It's terrifying. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail her like I failed Marcus?" Caroline knelt beside the rocking chair. "You didn't fail Marcus. You loved him with everything you had. That's not failure. That's motherhood." "But what if something happens? What if I lose her too?" "Then you'll survive, because that's what mothers do. We love our children knowing we might lose them. We give everything knowing it might break us. And we do it anyway because the love is worth the risk." Maya looked at Ethan, at the baby she had saved, at the child who had saved her right back. "I'm going to be a mother again." "Yes, you are. And you're going to be amazing." The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind. Maya met with social workers. She filled out endless paperwork. She underwent background checks and home visits and psychological evaluations. Through it all, Caroline and David stood by her side. They converted the guest room next to Maya's bedroom into a nursery. They bought a crib, a changing tablecloths, diapers, everything a baby would need. Victoria contributed too. She sent money for the nursery. She used her connections to expedite the legal process. She never asked for credit or acknowledgement. Maya didn't know how to feel about Victoria's help. Part of her still didn't trust the woman. Part of her was grateful. Maybe that was okay. Maybe relationships didn't have to be simple. On the 14th day, Maya received the call she had been waiting for. "Miss Johnson, your adoption has been approved. You can pick up your daughter tomorrow at Hartford Hospital." Maya dropped the phone. She literally dropped it on the floor. Caroline picked it up and finished the conversation. When she hung up, she was crying too. "You did it! Maya, you did it! I have a daughter. I'm going to have a daughter." They hugged each other and cried and laughed and cried some more. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the baby girl waiting for her in Hartford. She had already chosen a name. Hope. Because that's what this baby represented. Hope for the future. Hope for healing. Hope that life could still be beautiful after so much pain. At 3 a.m, there was a knock on her door. "Come in?" It was David. He looked tired, but alert. "Couldn't sleep either." Maya shook her head. "Too many thoughts." David sat down in the chair by her window. "I want to tell you something. Something I've never told anyone." "What is it?" "When Ethan was dying, when the doctors said there was nothing they could do, I gave up. I actually gave up on my own son." Maya looked at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" "I stopped coming home. I started working later and later. I told myself it was because I needed to think, needed to process. But the truth is, I was running away. I couldn't watch my son die, so I chose not to watch at all." David's voice cracked. "If you hadn't saved him, Ethan would have died. And it would have been my fault. Not because I couldn't feed him, but because I wasn't there. Because I abandoned my family when they needed me most. David, you can't blame yourself. You were scared. Everyone gets scared." "But not everyone runs. Caroline didn't run. You didn't run. You showed up every day and fought for a baby that wasn't even yours. While I, his father, was hiding in my office pretending everything was fine." Maya didn't know what to say. She had never heard David talk like this. "I'm telling you this because I want you to know something," David continued. "You're already a better parent than I ever was. You showed up when it mattered. You fought when everyone told you to quit. You loved a dying baby back to life." "I just did what any mother would do." "No, you did what the best mothers do, and tomorrow when you hold your daughter for the first time, I want you to remember that. You earned this. You deserve this, and Hope is lucky to have you." Maya felt tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you, David. That means more than you know." David stood up and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back. "One more thing. Caroline and I talked. We want to ask you something tomorrow after you bring Hope home. Something important?" "What is it?" "You'll see. Get some sleep, Maya. Tomorrow's going to be the best day of your life." He closed the door behind him. Maya lay there in the darkness, wondering what David and Caroline wanted to ask her. But mostly she thought about Hope, about holding her daughter for the first time, about starting a new chapter in her life. She fell asleep with a smile on her face. The morning came faster than Maya expected. She was up at 5, dressed and ready by 6, pacing the floor by 7. Caroline drove her to Hartford Hospital. They didn't talk much during the ride. There was nothing left to say. Everything that mattered was waiting at the end of the road. When they arrived at the hospital, a social worker met them in the lobby. "Miss Johnson, I'm Sarah. I'll be taking you to meet your daughter." Maya's legs were shaking so badly she could barely walk. Caroline held her arm and guided her forward. They took an elevator to the maternity ward. They walked down a long hallway that seemed to stretch forever, and then they stopped in front of a door. "She's in here," Sarah said. "Are you ready?" Maya nodded. She couldn't speak. The door opened. Inside was a small room with a single crib. And in that crib, wrapped in a pink blanket, was the tiniest baby Maya had ever seen. Maya walked to the crib on trembling legs. She looked down at the baby girl. Dark skin. Dark hair. Perfect little fingers curled into fists. She looked like Marcus. Maya started sobbing. She couldn't help it. The grief and the joy and the love all crashed together into something too big to contain. "Can I hold her?" "Of course, she's yours." Maya reached into the crib and lifted her daughter for the first time. The baby was warm and soft and smelled like powder and milk. Hope opened her eyes. They were dark brown, almost black. She looked up at Maya with total trust. "Hi, baby girl," Maya whispered through her tears. "I'm your mama. I've been waiting for you my whole life." Hope yawned and closed her eyes. She fell asleep in Maya's arms like she had always belonged there. Caroline was crying too. She took photo after photo, capturing every moment of this miracle. "She's beautiful," Caroline said. "She's absolutely perfect." Maya couldn't respond. She just held her daughter and cried, and thanked God for second chances. Before we continue with the rest of this story, I want to say something. If you've made it this far, if you've stayed with Maya through all the pain and all the triumph, thank you. Thank you for caring about these characters. Thank you for believing in this story. Now let's see how it all ends. They brought Hope home that afternoon. The Sterling mansion had never felt more alive. David was waiting at the door with Ethan in his arms. Rosa Thompson had flown in from Atlanta. Even Victoria was there standing quietly in the corner watching. Maya carried Hope into the house and stopped in the middle of the foyer. "Everyone," she said, "meet Hope, my daughter." Rosa was the first to approach. She looked at the baby with tears in her eye. "She's beautiful, just beautiful." David came next with Ethan. The two babies were only months apart in age. "Ethan, meet your new friend," David said. "You're going to grow up together." Ethan reached out a chubby hand toward Hope. The baby grabbed his finger and held on. Everyone laughed. Even Victoria cracked a small smile. That evening, after everyone had eaten dinner and the babies were asleep, David and Caroline asked Maya to join them in the living room. "We have something to ask you," Caroline said. "Something we've been thinking about for a while." Maya sat down across from them. "David mentioned something last night. What is it?" David and Caroline looked at each other. Then Caroline spoke. "We want to make you Ethan's godmother. Officially. Legally." Maya's heart skipped. "What? You saved his life. You fought for him when no one else could. You're already family, but we want to make it official. If anything ever happens to us," David added, "we want to know that Ethan will be with someone who loves him, someone who will protect him no matter what." Maya felt tears building again. She had cried more in the past month than in the previous decade of her life. "Are you sure? I mean, what about your family, your siblings?" "Our siblings weren't there when Ethan was dying," Caroline said. "You were. You're more family to us than anyone else." Maya looked at these two people who had changed her life, who had given her a home, a purpose, a future. "Yes," she said. "Of course, yes." Caroline jumped up and hugged her. David joined them. They stood there in the living room, three people bound together by a love that transcended blood and background and everything society said should divide them. Victoria watched from the doorway. She didn't say anything. But Maya saw tears rolling down her cheeks. The next morning, Victoria asked to speak with Maya privately. They met in the garden. Victoria looked older than she had a month ago, smaller, more human. "I wanted to give you something," Victoria said. She handed Maya an envelope. Inside was a check for $500,000. Maya's eyes went wide. "I can't accept this." "It's for Hope, for her education, her future, whatever she needs." "Victoria, this is too much." "It's not nearly enough. Not for everything I did to you. Not for everything I put you through." Victoria's voice broke. "I spent 50 years building an empire. I thought that was what mattered. Money, power, reputation. But watching you with those babies, watching you love them with nothing but your heart, I realized I had it all wrong." She took Maya's hand. "You have something I never had. Courage, real courage. The kind that comes from loving someone more than you love yourself." Maya didn't know what to say. "Take the money," Victoria said. "Not as an apology, not as payment, as a gift. From a foolish old woman to a brave young one." Maya looked at the check, at the future it represented. "Thank you, Victoria. Thank you for not giving up on my family, even when I did everything I could to push you away." They stood there for a moment, two women who had started as enemies and ended up as something neither of them had expected. Not friends, not exactly, but not enemies anymore either. Something new. Something that didn't have a name. 6 months passed. The Rosa Thompson Foundation launched to national acclaim. Maya appeared on morning talk shows and evening news programs. She told her story over and over, reaching millions of people who had never heard of wet nurses, who had never questioned the shame, and around breastfeeding, who had never thought about the invisible women who saved countless lives. Letters poured in from around the world, from mothers who had been shamed, from wet nurses who had been silenced, from families who had been helped by strangers. The foundation grew faster than anyone expected. Within a year, they had chapters in 12 states. Within 2 years, they were international. Maya hired Rosa as a special advisor. The 82-year-old woman became the face of the movement, speaking at conferences and universities about her experiences. "I spent 50 years being invisible," Rosa told audiences everywhere. "Maya gave me my voice back. Now I'm using it to make sure no one else has to stay silent." Hope grew healthy and strong. She was a happy baby, always smiling, always reaching for Maya's face. Every morning, Maya would wake up and go to Hope's crib. Every morning, she would lift her daughter and hold her close. "Good morning, beautiful girl. Mama loves you." And every morning, Hope would smile back like she understood. Ethan grew too. He started crawling, then walking, then running through the Sterling mansion with Hope toddling after him. The two children became inseparable. They played together. They ate together. They took naps side by side. Caroline joked that they were raising twins. Maya thought it was more than that. These two children brought together by chance and circumstance were going to change the world someday. She could feel it. 1 year after the adoption, Maya received a letter. It was from Hope's birth mother. "Dear Maya," the letter read, "I've been following your story in the news. I've watched you become a voice for mothers everywhere. I've seen pictures of Hope growing up happy and loved. I wanted you to know that giving her to you was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the best thing. I was alone and scared, and I had nothing to give her. You have given her everything. Thank you for loving my daughter. Thank you for being the mother I couldn't be. I know she's in good hands. Someday when she's old enough, please tell her that her first mother loved her too, that giving her up wasn't about not wanting her. It was about wanting the best for her. And the best was you." With gratitude, Jennifer Maya read the letter 3 times. She cried each time. She folded it carefully and put it in a box she kept in her closet. The same box that held Marcus's photo and a lock of his hair. Someday when Hope was old enough, Maya would show her the letter. She would tell her the whole story, about her birth mother, about Marcus, about Ethan and the Sterling family and Rosa Thompson and Victoria. She would tell Hope that she was loved by so many people, that she was chosen, that she was wanted. But for now, Hope was too young to understand. For now, all Maya could do was love her, and that was enough. 2 years after everything began, Maya stood in front of a crowd of 500 people at the annual Rosa Thompson Foundation Gala. The ballroom was filled with donors, activists, politicians, and celebrities. Everyone who mattered in the world of maternal health was there. Rosa Thompson sat in the front row in her wheelchair. She was 84 now, frail but fierce. Caroline and David were there with Ethan now, a rambunctious toddler who couldn't sit still for more than 2 minutes. Victoria was there too, sitting quietly in the back. She had donated $3 million to the foundation over the past 2 years. She never asked for recognition. She never sought publicity. She just gave. Maya looked out at the crowd and took a deep breath. 3 years ago, I was a maid earning minimum wage. I had just lost my son to SIDS. I was broken, hopeless. I didn't see any reason to keep living. The room was silent. Then I met a baby named Ethan. He was dying. No one could save him. But I could, because my body was still producing milk for a baby who was gone. Maya's voice cracked. She steadied herself. What I did next changed my life. It got me fired, arrested, sued. It turned me into a target for one of the most powerful women in Connecticut. She looked at Victoria in the back of the room, but it also gave me everything. A family, a purpose, a daughter, a voice. She paused. I'm telling you this because I want you to know something. Every single person in this room has the power to change a life. It doesn't require money or connections or special skills. It just requires love. She looked at Rosa. Rosa Thompson loved a baby that wasn't hers. She saved that baby's life, and then she was forced to stay silent for 50 years. She looked at the crowd. There are women like Rosa everywhere. Women who feed other people's babies because those babies need them. Women who love fiercely and completely and never ask for anything in return. Women who have been shamed and silenced and made to feel like what they did was wrong. Maya's voice rose. I'm here to tell you it wasn't wrong. It was never wrong. Feeding a hungry baby is never wrong. Loving a child that needs you is never wrong. Standing up for what's right, even when everyone tells you to sit down, is never wrong. The audience erupted in applause. Maya waited for them to quiet. Tonight, I'm announcing something special. Thanks to a generous anonymous donor, the Rosa Thompson Foundation is establishing a national network of breast milk banks. Every major city in America will have access to donor milk. Every baby who needs it will receive it. No more shame, no more secrets, no more babies dying because their mothers couldn't feed them. The applause was deafening now. People were standing. People were crying. Maya looked at Rosa. The old woman was crying too, her face shining with pride. This isn't my accomplishment, Maya said. This belongs to every woman who ever nursed a baby that wasn't hers. Every mother who did what she had to do to keep a child alive. Every person who chose love over fear. She raised her glass. To Rosa Thompson, to all the women like her, and to the future we're building together. The crowd raised their glasses. To Rosa, Maya stepped down from the podium. Rosa wheeled herself forward and grabbed Maya's hand. You did it, baby girl. You changed the world. Maya knelt beside Rosa's wheelchair. We did it together, all of us. Rosa smiled. It was the most beautiful smile Maya had ever seen. Your Marcus would be so proud of you. Maya felt tears rolling down her cheeks. I hope so. I really hope so. That night after the gala, Maya went home to the Sterling mansion. Hope was asleep in her crib. Maya stood over her, watching her breathe. We did it, baby girl, Maya whispered. We actually did it. Hope stirred in her sleep. Her tiny hand reached out, grasping at nothing. Maya took her hand and held it. I'm going to tell you a story someday. About a maid and a baby and a secret that changed everything. About a woman named Rosa who waited 50 years to tell the truth. About your grandmother Victoria who did terrible things but learned to be better. About your brother Ethan, who you're going to grow up with. About your first mother Jennifer, who loved you so much she gave you away. Hope squeezed Maya's finger. And about your brother Marcus, the baby who came before you. The baby who taught me how to love. The baby who sent me to Ethan, and Ethan sent me to you. Maya bent down and kissed Hope's forehead. You're going to do amazing things, Hope Johnson. I can feel it. You're going to change the world just like all the people who came before you. She stood up and walked to the window. The moon was full. The stars were bright. The world was quiet. Maya thought about everything that had happened. The pain and the joy, the loss and the love, the darkness and the light. She had started with nothing, a broken heart, an empty apartment, a body that still made milk for a baby who was gone. Now she had everything, a daughter, a family, a purpose, a legacy. It hadn't been easy. There were days when she wanted to give up, days when the fight seemed too hard. Days when she wondered if it was all worth it. But standing here now, looking at Hope sleeping peacefully, Maya knew the answer. It was worth it. Every single moment of pain, every single tear, every single battle. Because love was always worth it. Always. 3 years later, Maya stood at the edge of a cemetery in the Bronx. It was the first time she had visited Marcus's grave since the funeral. She had been too afraid before, too broken. But today was different. Today she had brought hope. The little girl was 3 now. She had Maya's eyes and her birth mother's smile. She held Maya's hand as they walked between the headstones. Mama, who are we visiting? Someone very special, baby girl. Someone I want you to meet. They stopped in front of a small headstone. Marcus Johnson, beloved son, gone too soon, forever in our hearts. Maya knelt down beside the grave. She pulled Hope close. This is your brother Marcus. He was my first baby. He died before you were born. Hope looked at the headstone with serious eyes. Is he in heaven? Yes, baby, he's in heaven. Is he happy there? Maya felt tears building. She smiled through them. I think so. I think he's very happy, because he knows that you're here. He knows that Mama has someone to love again. Hope reached out and touched the headstone. Hi, Marcus. I'm Hope. I'm your sister. Maya broke down. She sobbed there in the cemetery, holding her daughter, grieving and celebrating at the same time. For the first time since Marcus died, she didn't feel guilty about being happy. She didn't feel like she was betraying him by loving Hope. She felt at peace. I love you, Marcus, Maya whispered. I will always love you. Thank you for sending me to Ethan. Thank you for sending me Hope. Thank you for teaching me that love never dies. She stood up and took Hope's hand. Come on, baby girl, let's go home. They walked out of the cemetery together, mother and daughter, past and future, grief and hope. Behind them, a breeze rustled through the trees. It sounded almost like a whisper, almost like goodbye. 10 years later, Maya Johnson stood at a podium and accepted the Presidential Medal of Freedom. The Rosa Thompson Foundation had become the largest maternal health organization in the world. It had saved over 2 million babies. It had supported over 500,000 mothers. It had changed laws in 37 countries. Rosa Thompson had died 2 years earlier peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by family and friends. She was buried in Atlanta next to her husband and her parents. Her grave was visited by thousands of people every year. Victoria Sterling had died the previous spring. She left her entire estate to the foundation. In her will, she wrote, I spent the first half of my life building an empire. I spent the second half trying to make amends. I hope history remembers the amends. Caroline and David had divorced amicably 3 years ago. They remained close friends and devoted co-parents. Ethan lived with both of them, splitting time between houses, happy and healthy and thriving. Hope was 13 now. She was brilliant, and fierce and kind. She had her mother's courage and her birth mother's resilience. She was going to change the world. Maya knew it. She could see it in Hope's eyes every single day. Maya looked out at the crowd gathered in the White House, at Caroline and David sitting together, at Ethan, now a teenager trying to look cool but clearly emotional, at Hope crying openly, not caring who saw. "I stand here today not as an individual but as a representative," Maya said. "A representative of every mother who has been shamed, every baby who has been hungry, every woman who has been invisible." She looked at the medal in her hands. "This honor doesn't belong to me. It belongs to Marcus, the son who taught me how to love. It belongs to Rosa Thompson, who waited 50 years to tell her truth. It belongs to every wet nurse, every milk donor, every mother who did what she had to do to keep a child alive." She looked at Hope. "And it belongs to my daughter, Hope. My proof that second chances are real. My evidence that the universe knows what it's doing even when we can't see the plan." She raised the medal high. "This is for all of us, for every mother who has ever loved a child, for every child who has ever needed that love, for everyone who has ever stood up and said that compassion is not a crime, that love is not a weakness, that feeding a hungry baby will never ever be wrong." The crowd rose to their feet. The applause was thunderous. Maya stepped down from the podium. Hope ran to her and threw her arms around her. "I'm so proud of you, Mama. I'm so proud of you, baby girl. Everything I am, everything I've done, it's all because of you." They held each other while the cameras flashed, and the crowd cheered, and the world watched. This is the end of Maya Johnson's story. But it's not really an ending, it's a beginning. Because somewhere right now, a baby is hungry, a mother is struggling, a woman with milk in her breasts is wondering if she should help a child that isn't hers. To that woman, Maya would say this: yes, help the child, feed the baby, choose love over fear. The world will tell you that you're crossing a line. Society will tell you that you're overstepping. People in power will try to shame you and silence you and make you feel small. Don't listen to them. Listen to your heart. Listen to that baby's cry. Listen to the voice inside you that knows what's right. Because Maya Johnson was nobody, a maid, a grieving mother, a woman with nothing but a broken heart and a body that still made milk. And she changed the world, not because she was special, not because she was powerful, but because she was brave enough to love. So this is the message that Maya's story teaches us. It's simple, but it's true. Love is never wrong. Compassion is never wasted. And sometimes the most ordinary people do the most extraordinary things. Not because they're heroes, but because they're human. And being human means loving each other, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when the whole world tells us not to. That's what Maya Johnson did. That's what Rosa Thompson did. That's what mothers everywhere do every single day. They love, they sacrifice, they fight, and they change the world, one baby at a time. If this story touched your heart, if it made you cry, if it made you think, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. Share it with a mother who's struggling. Share it with a woman who feels invisible. Share it with anyone who has ever been told that their love doesn't matter. Because it does matter. Every act of love matters. And that's the truth Maya Johnson spent her whole life proving. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And remember, feeding a hungry child is never wrong. Loving someone who needs you is never wrong. Being human is never wrong. That is the lesson. That is the legacy. That is the truth that Maya Johnson gave her life to prove, and it will live on forever.